Let's get ready to RPG!
RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG!
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melinda. Joining you, I'm on the wrong spot. Hold on. There we go. We're back on the green screen today. Joining you from my house. I expected this to be this stream to possibly be canceled for the entire week because we had a fire. We had a fire Sunday night at my home. It started in the garage, mostly contained to the garage, but we've had some people out this week, and a lot of people seem to feel like it's it's going to be a total loss out there in the garage, all the stuff, and they're going to have to tear basically the entire garage down and the inside of it, the drywall and all that other stuff. And so also in my garage was my main breaker panel. And so at the time, my electric to my house was shut off. My breaker panel was completely ruined from the heat and the smoke. But the fine folks at Streb Electric got it installed late Tuesday. And so I hopped on here Tuesday night, not really to do any sort of RPG stream, but honestly just to hang out with some of you fine folks and some of my friends, and just try to be distracted for a few hours. It had been a really, really long 3 days at that point. And I was completely blown away by just an incredible deluge of generosity, kind words, sizable financial donations, and all in all, just an incredible outpouring of support. It was very, very nice to see. I'm not usually a pretty emotional guy, but I had a couple moments there. And again, a lot of people are like, oh, you should do a stream goal. You should do a whatever. And I said, no, that's not really my style. Maybe for other people, but not so much for me. In other words, I'll happily raise funds for somebody else, but I'm not going to ask in that respect. That being said, the folks that did come out and support me, as they do month after month, year after year, just again, extreme thank you to everybody who came out. In particular, we had a couple very high dollar donations. Some folks donated a couple times with significant dollars. So we had several people who donated many hundreds of dollars. We had one individual, John, who donated $1,000. That is mind-blowingly generous and extremely appreciated. And we're starting off with a super chat from our friend Damien. What if I'm not ready to RPG? To be honest with you, Damien, I wouldn't blame you. I'm kind of not ready to RPG myself. Again, it's been a very long week, and luckily, Smith and some of my other players are in DC this week for work. I didn't have to go, not because of the fire. I just didn't have to go. And so we weren't going to be playing tomorrow anyways. And it's probably for the best, I think, in that respect. I will say that we did have a couple of tips come in offline, and I just wanted to quickly sort of read those out. One was from Anonymous, and they said, incredibly thankful to hear everyone is safe. I wish I could do more. Take care. Thank you to whoever that was. I don't know if you forgot to sign your name or if you wanted to be anonymous, but either way, thank you so much. Those are very kind words. And again, for me, the main thing was just that no one got hurt. My dogs were fine. I had to go to the ER for some minor burns and some smoke inhalation, but none of my neighbors' properties were affected. They weren't affected. So aside from being slightly, maybe rudely torn out of their house on a Sunday evening, that was pretty much unaffected to them. We also had a tip, which came in yesterday from Sam R., who said, I'm so sad to hear about your house, praying for you and your dogs. Nice. Glad you're okay. I have never watched a live stream, but I do watch your VODs often. I just want you to know how many people care. Well, Sam, thank you. And also, I think Sam's generous tip there points out that, there are a lot of people who do watch these VODs. I mean, we obviously get a couple dozen, sometimes we get 50, 60 people in here. If we're talking about something that people actually care about, we can get 100, 150. I think we even had 200 in here once when we were talking about Daggerheart. Maybe 250. It was like that. I think that was our peak. But
Trevor tipped $50.
Thank you,
the
Trevor.
Tuesday stream, but fuck it, we ball.
So, you know, Trevor, it is quickly becoming the unofficial mascot of the Knights of Last Call. We may have to get shirts made, and if we do, I'll make sure I set one aside for Noah. Thank you, Trevor. That was very generous. And yes, fuck it, we ball. So yeah, it was really awesome that we had so many people come out and, you know, people supporting us. That, you know, it's a lot of, not everybody can join us. In person, not everyone could join us on the Patreon, but we do have a lot of people out there who watch our videos. I mean, not compared to, you know, the internet and you know what most people are watching. You know, the number of views we get is pretty small compared to someone like, you know, Professor Dungeon Master or whatever over on Dungeon Craft. But you know, we still sometimes, you know, we get a few thousand views, and obviously there's more than a few thousand people here, so or fewer than a few thousand people here. So we do get people to watch, and I appreciate you all as part of the community. I wish hopefully all of you can come in and join a live stream. Yeah. Yes, GM Scott was giving me crap for my electric, but yes, it was probably done due to bribery, yes. Let's see here. Beowulf, thank you. Mark finally approves of my thumbnail. This one grabs attention. Yeah, that's why we have like 30 people here. GM Scott pointing out the correct equation. It definitely does mean we are in exile. Cal is here. Hello, Calderic. Sims 3, welcome. Isaiah enjoying the chill beats. Roll for Combat. What is that RPG opening from? That Are You Ready to RPG is from a, I think it's supposed to be a parody, but I don't know if it's supposed to be a parody, but someone made a movie out of the Jack Chick Dark Dungeon tract. The famous comic that he wrote in the 80s or whatever, late 80s about, the dangers of Dungeons and Dragons. So somebody made a movie of it. It's on YouTube, and I clipped it from that. And there's a scene where the two girls, right, Marcy and Debbie, go to a college frat party, and they're like, oh, they're the good girls, and they're, like everyone's, drinking, and it seems like it's a bunch of debauchery. But then the guy stops and he gets up and he goes, are you all ready for the main event? I know why you're here. You're here because you want to RPG. Well, then let's hear it. Who's ready to RPG? And then all the people in the frat house start going, RPG. It's one of my favorite things of all time. Spider-Man's on his way to play some Techno Fabula Ultima. Well, that's a fantastic way to spend the evening. What is up, Mikey? Good to see you. Chandler in class, almost on time. Glad to see it. It's close enough. Close enough. You made it in. I have been using that slogan a lot. Lord Dragon, hello. Hard Bushido commenting on the thumbnail. Yes, great role-playing Devi is another part from that. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so the thumbnail, is it clickbait? No, because so my Pathfinder 2 collection, for the most part, is safe. However, very sadly, a patron, Mr. GM Scott in the chat, donated to me at one of our last meetups a good chunk of his physical Pathfinder 2 products, especially the actual plays, or not actual plays, the adventure paths, and whom he had a lot of, and probably had run what he was going to run and wasn't planning on running any more of them. And he thought he could just donate them to me, and I could give them away as prizes on the channel, which we have done before. And so we started up a system. We were going to do bingo for our EverQuest games in Exile. And, unfortunately, we only got one of those off before life exploded completely around everybody. And so when Scott had dropped those off for me, they were up at the studio. And when we moved out of the studio at the end of, basically beginning of May, end of April, I moved all the stuff from the studio to storage, but I didn't want to move the adventure paths and the stuff I was going to give away into storage because I needed it, because I was planning on shipping it out. So I brought it home, and it's a lot of stuff. It's big stacks of RPG books. So I just threw it in my garage, and I figured I'd figure out where to go from in the future, and it would be fine. Well, unfortunately, it was not fine, because as the smoke billowed out and filled the garage with heat and smoke and soot, everything basically got stained, and the paper got completely absorbed. No, Bob has the mead. So as a result, I feel horrible, not because I lost some RPG books. I feel horrible because, number one, somebody donated them to the channel, and number two, we were planning on giving these away. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what my plan is going to be, but, we'll figure out some way to maybe I can get a claim on them, and we can get some cash, and maybe we can do something else, or, I don't know. We can figure out something, because I do want to continue to do these giveaways, and it'd be fun. And I think too, and as we move into the summer, the final, so to speak, the quote unquote final Pathfinder 2 core book is going to come out. Core 2, Players Core 2. I still hate that name. With what will hopefully be the final set of revisions for the spells, maybe, along with obviously some of the final versions of the classes. And I think, we'll probably spend at least a couple of streams in August and September going back into Pathfinder 2. So I think that's a good time. That's a good time to sort of maybe try to figure out a way to give something away, right? To have some fun with that. But yeah, unfortunately, there was also some 4th edition D&D books that had been donated to me last year, which we never got around to giving away. And those were up for giveaway too, but those were in the garage as well. So it remains to be seen how it'll go. That being said, the real life quest for Frozen Flame is also not clickbait, because yes, my garage fire, which potentially destroyed many tens of thousands of dollars worth of power tools, wood, electronics, RPG books, was started by my chest freezer. So indeed, the Frozen Flame destroyed my stuff. If they watch your reviews of the APs, the adjusters will know they're worthwhile. Look, they're worthwhile to some, but somebody worked really hard on that. That's the thing I do have to remind myself. I may not personally like them, but it's good for somebody, and that's fine. Damien says, the Oracle preview looks 10,000 times better. I have not seen the Oracle preview yet, but so far I have been mostly pretty impressed with everything that I've been seeing with regards to the remaster of the sort of secondary remaster of the second classes. And again, I'm not saying I told you so. I'm not going to say that. But I will say that pretty much all of the classes that I gave Fs or Ds or C minuses to got significantly fixed. Oh, Casey, thank you.
Roberts tipped $36.65. Missed the hype train on Tuesday. Thanks for all the content over the years and bringing this amazing
thank you very much,
together.
sir.
Adding a small
Casey
amount
missed
to the
the
fire
hype train, but
recovery
you know
fund.
what? It's not a hype train, Casey. It is just a lot of people showing their appreciation, not just for me. I think what Casey said there is really important. Sure, I brought you a lot of content. Smith and Bob have joined me on the journey, and we've played some fun games and all this other stuff, which is all great. But it's really the community. Right before I hopped on to this stream today, I saw there was like 12 or 15 people just in a voice chat hanging out on our Discord. It's really amazing how the community has sort of grown into its own thing. And that's what I'm really most proud of. So thank you for that, Casey, and I appreciate you. So yeah, I'm anxious to see if they can fix the Alchemist. Not feeling very hopeful as the craftables are still almost the same. The Alchemist is always going to be fundamentally, I think, flawed because it relies on how good those crafting items are, and those crafting items are too easily put under the Paizo's razor. That being said, I have some pretty significant hope, and again, a lot of not only are a lot of the classes that they're changing and updating being changed the ones that I thought were weaker, there's a lot of instances where, and I'm not saying I'm the reason for that cause. I'm just saying those are smart people, and they probably, maybe they can't talk about it publicly, but I'm sure that they noticed some of the same class or game design flaws that a lot of us did in terms of how this class interacts with the other classes, the meta of the game itself, the interaction of the game itself. I mean, the best example I could think of is I literally have ranted for years about the action tax on the barbarian, and they got rid of it, but they didn't get rid of it on the ranger. So RIP ranger. And of course, a lot of people say, well, the ranger, because the ranger has, hunted shot. It's like, okay, well, what if the ranger doesn't have hunted shot? But yeah, but there's a lot of small ways. I'm not saying that like Alchemist or Oracle is going to go to the top of the list, but I said I think the S tier classes are a problem too. I would have been very happy for them to rein in fighter. In fact, they didn't. They buffed fighter because they got rid of things like open. It's a very minor buff, but they got rid of the open trait and stuff like that. So, if anything, it's a little stronger now. But that's okay. If you raise everybody else up, it's gonna be fine. But I'm saying I think it's fine for classes to be a C. So many people were so mad when I would give a spell a C ranking, or when I would give a class a C ranking. It's like they all can't be A. Like it doesn't even make sense that they would be. There's a baseline of expectation, and probably roughly half of them are above it, and roughly half of them are below it. And if you look at a lot of our spell and certainly our class distributions, they almost always turn out to look fairly Gaussian. They look centrally distributed about a C. Now, to be honest with you, it would be cool if like they were centrally distributed around like a B, and then with like almost nothing at an S. If you had maybe a couple A's, it's probably inevitable. A good handful of B's, a solid set of B's and C's, and then probably one D. So, and again, I understand that not every class needs to do the same thing. They don't all have to be super mechanically viable in that respect. But I would think that having too wide of a gap, too wide of a performance disparity is a problem. And so yeah. Any case, tonight is kind of back to our normal time because again I streamed pretty late on Tuesday. So part of it is just me catching everybody up on what happened. Part of it is just me hanging out with you all. Next week we'll hopefully get back to our regularly scheduled programs. Again, we have a couple of streams that we have tip goals for. I'm excited to talk about the cleric and the wizard. We did really well on our birthright stream, and a lot of people got excited about that. So we're probably going to do another AD&D, classic campaign retrospective series. So we have a couple things that we have kind of queued up. At some point, I would love to actually do one of these shows with Bob and Smith again. So hopefully we can get those guys back on here as well. I'm sorry to say that we will be in exile for even longer. Until some things get resolved. The streaming computer that we used at the studio for the past 3 years, along with the very nice, very expensive audio interface that we used at the studio, were both in the garage. Were both destroyed by the fire, so those will need to be completely replaced. And that, of course, means that it's a tough row to hoe. The air filtering is going, I think, fairly swimmingly. I mean, I think it smells better every day. So I'm hopeful that we're getting through it. I did pick up an additional room air purifier, so now basically I have like 5 of them going nonstop on their maximum speed. They're kind of like, they're maybe about like 4 feet tall. They kind of look roughly square shaped, but they're tall, and they're just plowing through the air, I guess, as best I can do. Fighters and rogues got buffs to S+. What was the buff to the rogue? Is that they can use what? They can use any weapon now? Is that what the rogue? I can't remember. I remember people being very upset, or not upset, but talking about the rogue. I think they can use martial weapons. Is that it? Earlier, Sims 3 Snowflake asked, Would love to hear a rant about why Quest for the Frozen Flame sucked, by the way. Family picked that adventure for the family game, and I want to fix it up so it's a good fun. Well, good luck. I have a number of, I mean, some of it would be spoilery, so I don't want to get too much into the details about it. Suffice to say, my single largest problem, actually, with Quest for the Frozen Flame is it bills itself as a hexploration game, but it is not a hexploration game. And it's not a hexploration game for two reasons. Number one, the main reason is because in the context of the adventure, you and your fellow tribes people are being pursued by a murderous band of bloodthirsty, crazy people who want to kill you all or enslave you. That is not usually what we consider hexploration. That is what we consider a chase. So this means that when you're exploring, the idea is that you're like, oh, we're curious and we want to go see what's over that mountain and we want to go see what's over the other side of the river and we want to explore, whatever, all that stuff. Okay, but that's not what's happening here. You are fleeing for your lives. And at the very least, you're fleeing for the lives of your tribes people who are not PCs. So yeah, it's a hex, get the fuck out. So that's the first problem. The first problem with that. Now, and I'm going to, minor spoiler, there's a secondary problem tied to the first problem. So the secondary problem is that the adventure sets this up as you and your tribes people are fleeing the onslaught of this rampaging group of murderous killers who greatly outnumber you. And your tribe is, pretty, the Broken Tusks is pretty small, pretty, I don't want to say weak, but weak. There's a lot of you're not a very particularly strong little tribe. And so the adventure doesn't really explain what, if, or how would happen if the pursuing evil tribe called the Burning Mammoths catch up to you. It's just not something that the adventure even presumes that you would even allow to happen. There's things set up in the adventure such that basically this group of the party members and their associated tribes can move at 2 or 3 times the speed of the other people coming after you, even though they have access to teleport magic. And all of these things combined, it's crazy because it is a false presumption. It's a false presumption that you're in danger because the game, it doesn't give you anything. It doesn't even give you some idea of what could possibly happen if they were to catch up with you. So there's not a lot of play in that respect because the game goes, well, you have to get away and there's no way that you can't get away. Okay. That's the first problem. Second problem, it's not hexploration also. Because if you look at, and this is, I'm specifically speaking here about the first adventure. If you look at the map, there's only one way to go. It's a linear path. It is a linear path that follows this kind of S-shaped route that takes you through to the mountains. So the direction that you go is basically constrained by impassable terrain and or the edges of the map. So there is no way that it's not really exploration because there's only one way to go. You have to go the way that they want you to go. Now, in theory, this would force you into the pre-arranged encounters that they put on the map. However, the way that those pre-arranged encounters work is it's only one hex and the party can just go around them. And there's no reason, I mean this, there is no reason why if your group of party members knows that there's some sort of scary combat encounter in the woods, that especially, maybe they're adventurers, they would want to go explore, they might be treasure. Okay, fair, but they're not in this context. In this, they are the guardians, they are the scouts, they are the saviors, they are the guides for their tribe of people, which include men, women, children, elderly. So no, they're not going to go off and be, let's go fuck with this thing because, it's a good encounter and it's worth the XP. No, they should be seeking to avoid any or all encounters. So the whole process of moving through the valley is completely pointless, basically. You have died of dysentery. Yes, I mean that. Now, to be clear, one of the changes I made is I included 4 abstract resources, which sort of represented the health and the well-being, not of the PCs, but of the Broken Tusk tribe that they were sort of acting as the caretakers for, acting as the guide for. And these 4 resources allowed me to encourage, reward, or punish, as a form of consequence, the PC's actions as they sort of move through. Now, this is something I made up entirely. I stole it from the Battlestar Galactica board game, which is one of my favorite board games of all time. It seemed particularly appropriate because the Battlestar Galactica board game is literally a small ragtag group of survivors fleeing from the oppressive force of an unstoppable, completely overpowering enemy force, right? While struggling to survive and to have enough food and water and dealing with any sort of political intrigue that might be going on. Hey, Doc Flamingo. You have died. Oh, no, I already said that. You have died of dysentery. I just saw the super chat pop up in my screen, but thank you, Doc Flamingo, for that. Yeah, so the way I did it was the tribe had 4 resources. The first resource was just called, the tribe or people. It was sort of an abstract resource which represented the number of people in the tribe. So obviously, if people got killed or left behind or they deserted or something, the population value would tick down. And there wasn't a lot of opportunities to make it go up. But in theory, if the group were to find another group of survivors and they would to bring them into their into the fold with them, then you could have the population go up. But the idea was this represented the people of the tribe. And in some respects, it was the resource that the group was treating with the most care and concern because, sure, abstractly, it's just a number. But, that's the fun part of RPGs is that we can tie the abstract game mechanics into the fiction. And this isn't just while it is an abstract number, just like hit points is an abstract number, we understand what it represents. And so they were very protective of that value, which was cool because it made them make other decisions because they didn't want to lose anything from that particular track. So the first was population. The second was the amount of food or supplies that the group had available. This was the resource that I would kind of go up and down the most because obviously you have a tribe, they're eating, they're on the move, they're not having the time to hunt and gather and trap like they normally could. So this kind of represented the most pressing thing because if that were to run out, then suddenly the group would become more, would start to lose people, would start to suffer other problems, basically would start essentially starving to death, right? Or dying, suffering from dehydration. So food was something, and also too the game / the idea is that these are these are people from the realm of the Mammoth Lords. Bob was a hunter. There was the idea that the group were sort of these providers. Kind of gave them this fun little mini game where they would need to sometimes try to escape, but then they'd have to stop and they'd have to hunt or they'd have to acquire food or water in some other ways. And that was a resource that I could really sort of tick with, but that was a resource that was just basically constantly ticking down. There was no way to ever just get it good and then leave it. It was just always constantly ticking down. So that was sort of my short time horizon resource that I could play with over the course of days, not weeks or months. The third resource was called the herd. These are a nomadic people who have a herd of animals, ostensibly mammoths, which they use for their well-being. The adventure, and to my knowledge, the description of them in the world guide doesn't really go into too much detail about how this works. If they were truly nomadic people, what they would do is they would graze their mammoths essentially throughout the spring and into the summer and into the fall while living off of the land. And then come winter, they would butcher the mammoths to provide meat, fat, food, hide, clothing for the coming winter when they could not live off of substance, in foraging. The whole, it's a little bit kindergarten Disney the way that they make it seem, because the whole thing is there's all these really weird encounters in the adventure where you're basically going and making a new animal friend, and they're like he's joining the herd, and I was like, it's not really an animal friend. This is their food source. But the adventure and the Pathfinder 2 language is very, very ambivalent about what it is. I don't know if you're just making a lot of mammoth cheese, mammoth milk. So in any case, growing the tribe with animals is more like Pokemon. Yes. Yes, Shadram, exactly. In the adventure path, the tribe, it's like collecting Pokemon. That is exactly what it's like. Yes, the mammoth taint. Yes, that is an old joke, GM Scott. That is an old joke going back to Quest. But yeah, so it's this really weird system where, but again, it was part of the adventure. Yes, or Eldamon, better than Pokemon, Eldamon. So, fundamentally, I think it's an okay idea that the group would sort of. I guess basically capture these animals and add them to their herd so that they had, access to more animals to slaughter come winter. But it felt a little strange because, again, as Shadram pointed out, it was set up in sort of these are your new buddies. You made a good friend. Now they're joining. They're part of the herd. And I was like, that's not how these nomadic people work. Anyways, in my game, the herd was a resource that the group could use to provide food. Basically, the idea was you wanted to protect the herd. The herd was the future of the tribe. Without the herd, the group was never going to survive the winter. But these are tough times, and the tribe doesn't have the time it has normally to stop and to forage and to hunt and to fish to provide for their food needs. And so sometimes they have to basically call the herd, and they could kill like a mammoth to gain a windfall of food so that they could eat for the next, week or two without having to stop and without having to hunt and fish and forage. So that was how I used herd. And also, again, I'm tying into the themes of what are important to these people. What is important to these? They're a nomadic people who follow a herd. And so the herd should be something that's really, really important. And then the last one is morale. And morale just sort of represents the feelings of goodwill and the overall positivity of the tribe. And there's kind of this undercurrent theme of, will the tribe stick together, or will they break up? Will they go their separate way? Will the different, because it's technically the broken tusks are what's called a following, which are made of several houses, like House Falcon, House Boar, House something. And so there's something, there's this idea maybe that there's this kind of, I don't know, there's this sort of interscene strife or something. I kind of played it up a little bit, but I didn't really go too much with it. But the idea is that, as the group suffers from exhaustion and the threat and the fear of being chased down, that morale can drop. Additionally, morale was a resource that I used to allow the PCs to essentially force march the tribe. I would let them move the tribe an extra hex, but in exchange, it meant that they had to lose a morale. So morale became a resource that they had to monitor closely, because if morale got to 0, then the people in the tribe would begin to desert. And while they weren't necessarily being killed, they were basically, packing up their stuff and leaving and saying, I'm out. I'm not sticking with it. So that was the third thing. The fourth thing, the last thing I will say, this is just a personal bugaboo. I'm not even going to talk about the finale. I'm not going to talk about the finale. I'm not going to talk about book 2, because that's pretty spoilery. But the final thing is, in the course of the adventure, the PCs are essentially given a MacGuffin quest, and they are told what they have to do, because nothing says adventure, power, and freedom like just having a job. So they're told what they have to go do, and they have to go to this sacred ancient cave and discover a secret, long-lost map to the Paradise Valley, where they will be safe. Very reminiscent of the Land Before Time, right? Follow the North Star, whatever. The Star Leaf or whatever. Anyways, and the name of this is Lost Mammoth Valley, which is supposed to be this hidden paradise realm where the buffalo roam or the mammoth roam, where the group will be safe. And so they have to find out, but the tribe has lost it. They no longer have the knowledge of where this secret valley is. It's the entrance to it is this narrow pass that's hidden amongst the endless mountains. So without a map, you can't possibly find it. So the group has to go to this ancient tribal cave, and there they can discover the secret of the map. Unless they don't, in which case, like the village elders are basically like, oh, we took a look at that. We took a look at that dungeon. We went into the cave ourselves, and yeah, I know where the secret valley is. And so it's like, so the PC's actions almost mean nothing. So even if they fail, they win. And I shouldn't say this, but it's a spoiler. I'm sorry. But even if the PCs do everything right, and they have evaded the burning mammoths, which could not possibly catch them, they avoided the encounters, they played my stupid little resource mini game, and they managed it correctly, and then they went into the dungeon. And even though the NPCs will tell you where the thing is, even if you miss it, let's say my PCs found the map, so they did everything correct. And you know where the secret Lost Mammoth Valley is. So you go there, and you know what happens? You guessed it. The bad guys are there first. Now, normally, I would say this is complete bullshit. How did they get there first? Weren't they chasing us? If they're there, aren't we dead? And you go, no, they're there. Because the leader of the people who are pursuing you, by the way, this is a level 1 adventure. The people who are pursuing you are led by a 12th level magus who has access to the spell teleport. So she teleported herself and her cronies ahead to the secret Lost Mountain Valley, which no one knew existed, except apparently the bad guy. And now this 12th level character who could just destroy the party with a single casting of her spell, doesn't. Instead, she causes an avalanche. An avalanche that the PCs are guaranteed to escape from. But that's okay, because they've gotten away. And the evil villain and her horrible, evil tribe of burning mammoths has been left behind. And now they are free to pursue their paradise in Lost Mammoth Valley. Guess what? You know what's in Lost Mammoth Valley? More of the bad guys. Which, again, makes sense because she can teleport. So, also... Yeah. So, any case, yes, they were left behind ahead, is basically what it says. Not in my game. I haven't used the Burning Mammoth at all in Book 2, and I respect the hell out of it. I think I've listened to you complain about this adventure more than you actually played it. I don't know. We played it for like 11 or 12 sessions. They were like 3 to 4 hours long. So there's like 40 to 50 hours of us playing the adventure. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there are things, there are tweaks, there are changes. I mean, I completely remade the finale. I mean, I completely redid that part of the adventure. I had to. I could not allow myself to just run it like that. So anyways, that is my core problem with Quest for the Frozen Flame. Also, when this is also a spoiler alert, but when you encounter the final villain in the final act of the final adventure, after she has been chasing you and hunting you down and just causing all sorts of problems for you. I'm not even kidding. The adventure. It's almost like a meme that. It's almost like it's such a meme how it writes itself. I just don't understand how they. Any case, it says I'm looking at my PDFs here to see if I can pull it up. There's part 1, part 2. Where's part 3? I'm not sure. But it literally says she attacks. She doesn't say anything. She just attacks. She fights to the death. It's like what it says. I'm like, it almost says that verbatim. It was too much for me here. Lost Mammoth Valley. I don't know where I put the third one. Damn, I thought I had it in here. She basically goes, she's been the adventurer for like 10 levels, the villain for 10 levels, and she just goes, she attacks without it. She attacks on sight and fights to death. And that's what she does. It's so weird not seeing the books in the background. I'm sorry. Is that better? Lord Dragon, but if they could teleport, why didn't they just instantly surround the PCs? Great question. The true villain of the AP was Hatchethoff. The only thing that was really redeeming to me was Hatchethoff, and I am particularly proud of the Hatchethoff Knight Rider video I made that happened in the final adventure. So they fight to the death. Yes, and I very famously went on a very long rant about this. The mage lady has a fireball. She uses it to start an avalanche, but she could have just fireballed the PCs. She could have fireballed the tribe. Hell, she had several fireballs. She didn't even have to use it. She would just blow everything up. Tabletop Nerd Josh, we're talking about Quest for the Frozen Flame, and we had a member who asked about what were some of my problems with it, because I did have some problems with it. Let me try to think other than that, though. This is a very minor problem, but this is because it's not really a problem. This is more of a stylistic choice. One of the reasons I said this, I even got pushback on people, not from a Patreon, but like people on the internet. When we did our session 0 for Quest for the Frozen Flame, I was like, look, one of the reasons I want to pick this is because you are from the realm of the Mammoth Lords. This is these are primitive people who live in this tribe thing. I don't want a bunch of weird ancestries. I'm going to basically make everybody be a human because you're part of this culture. You're part of this ethno group. I can't remember the name of the people that live there now. It's escaping me. No, it's not called what are they called? Anyways, it's basically northern barbarian people. And so I was like, so we're not going to allow that many non-humans. Everybody's going to be a part of this tribe. I'll maybe allow one person to be something different. Thank you, Sims. Hallet. Yes, that is the sort of the racial subgroup that they are. And additionally, I said these are a spiritual people. They believe in the power of nature and stuff like that. They do not trust wizards and sorcerers. This is all part of the established order, and it makes them unique and it makes them interesting. And I said, there's no way, and yet the book goes, be a gunslinger, be a spell singing gunslinger, be one of those horrible monster gunners, be a diabolic oracle witch. It's all good. And I said, no, it's not. It's not good. Like I banned some classes. I basically banned anybody from using occult magic. It never came up because Tim really didn't get high enough level, but because Tim was a fighter, but he had free archetype bard, and we were going to give Tim's bard the primal list because I just didn't think it was appropriate for him to be casting occult spells. Given that he was supposed to be more like a tribal skald rather than some weird mind mage tentacle summoning vomit swarming bard. It didn't really make any sense to us. So in any case, I think it's okay to say, yeah, this is a different game. This is you can't. But again, that goes against the core ethos, not just of Pathfinder 2, but maybe against most traditional big name RPGs these days, which is you have to let everybody be everything at all times. Otherwise, people are going to bitch. And there's a strong sense of entitlement. I mean, I see it all the time on Reddit where people will be like, I wanted to be blah, 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 blah. And my GM said no. And they're just like crying like a little baby. And it's like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with there being restrictions. I think restriction breeds creativity. I think that having those restrictions makes the game feel different than a game set anywhere else in Golarion. It can't just be, I want to go to level 10 again. It's like, we've done this 18 times. Part of it is, part of it is that this is going to feel different. Is it just me, or does Derek have white eyelashes? It is not just you, but I do not have white eyelashes. I only have one set of white eyelashes. It is only this eye. This one's normal, and this one is half white. And it's just a birthmark. There's also some white eyelashes and discoloration here. So, yeah, anyways, it is, now again, there's, like, again, I thought the whole thing with the Frozen Flame, I was so excited to run it, because the premise seemed really cool. It seemed low magic. Oh, okay, that's another issue. This is like Pathfinder 2 needs magic items to work. Okay. Pathfinder 2, you need to have +1 weapons at level 2. Okay. At the very least, you need to have +1 weapons by level 3. But the math of the game is tight. You need striking runes. You need striking runes by level 4. You need potency runes. The treasure in this adventure is horrible. And it's not like that you can hop down to Absalom and go pick up a nice, quartet of +1 runes or striking runes to go slap on those babies. It doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't make sense in any context, but it really doesn't make any mistake here. So I would say that you absolutely need to do, as Damien suggests here, you absolutely have to do automatic bonus progression. That's what when people say ABP, they mean automatic bonus progression. It's an optional rule in the, I don't know where it is now. Is it in GM Core? It used to be in the GMG, so I assume it's in GM Core. Alternatively, you could look at something like the monster parts system from, for example, Roll for Combat. Battlezoo did a sort of a monster parts system where the different monsters that you hunt and kill and fight can sort of, their essence can be used or infused. I actually think, in a weird way, Eldamon could almost be kind of cool in Quest for the Frozen Flame, but that feels way more in line with the story of the game, and again, I don't know why they didn't take these opportunities, like at the end of the first adventure. I think you're level 4. So at the end of, right near the end, right before the final confrontation, the group goes into Red Cat Cave and they make their way through. This is where they find the star map that leads them to Lost Mammoth Valley. And at the end, they find this spirit of a tiger who has sort of been driven mad with rage and regret. And so he's like he's a good spirit, but he's filled with rage and regret, which is awesome. Cool. Very, very evocative. And the party obviously has to, beat him, because that's how these things work, Oh, you're filled with rage and regret. Okay, we need to lower your hit points to 0. Any case, I'm not mocking that too much, but that is kind of funny. Anyways, when you beat it to 0, he remembers who he is and he stops. But what a cool moment, build it into the game. Instead of automatic bonus progression, instead of buying fucking +1 weapons like you're buying milk at the store. Make it diegetic. Make it that, the spirit, thanks you for freeing him from his rage, and he tells you of the proud heritage of your people, and that the spirits of their ancestors will be with them, and then describe how the spirit dissipates and effuses into them and into their weapons, and as a result their weapons are now strike +1 striking, right? They get that extra striking rune. Like, that would be perfect for the timing of that. There's a scene earlier in the adventure where the elder of the clan dies, and he kind of brings the group in to sort of tell them their secret mission. Well, what better way to have him sort of like as a final blessing, or as he, or as he passes, he puts the final blessings of the tribe and their people, and they put them onto the party's weapons. That's how they became +1 weapons, because they were just about to be level 2, or they're just around level 2. And then 2 levels later, when they fight the red cat spirit, that's how they got their +1 striking runes. And so instead of just being +1 striking runes, which, to be fair, they are, but you've tied it into the fiction, and you've made it feel like these aren't just +1 striking weapons. These are like, these are like the ancestors. These are your ancestors. These are the spirits guiding you, supporting you. And I don't know, there's just a lot of opportunities to do some really cool stuff here. I just don't think that they do it because, some people may not like it and they just want to play Pathfinder 2. And that's a problem. You just got to clip that, send it to him and say, see, look, Derek said it's okay. I love it. Good stuff. Lower hit points to diplomacy value. Cannot diplomacy until hit point is low enough. There was I don't know if it was ever a core rule, or it might have been, maybe it was a feat or something. There was something, I think, in 4th edition D&D, where if an enemy was bloodied, once the enemy became bloodied, you could essentially use diplomacy against them to basically get them to kind of surrender. It was kind of like a version of morale. And I always felt like that's probably a pretty good, paradigm. Get through half and then get them to surrender. Yeah, well, I basically spoiled most of it anyways. Oh, so anyways, yeah. That was Quest for the Frozen Flame. I liked it in theory, but a lot of the problems I had with it are just systemic and logical, illogical, and it just had a lot of problems. But again, I mean, the setup for the story was so good, and then it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of went in a weird direction. Are these issues present in other Pathfinder adventure paths? It's a great question. I haven't read them all, so I don't know. Again, I thought Abomination Vaults, aside from a few issues, and I think the map is too small, I think Abomination Vaults is good. But Abomination Vaults has the problem that a lot of people don't like, is that it's not just this cool little story that you get to go on a fun travel through. It is essentially a big dungeon that you just go down through. And I think that while that's really cool for me, it's not really cool for a lot of people. Have I seen One Piece? Lol. No, I am not a fan of anime. Also, I believe One Piece is pirate themed, and I actually don't really like pirates. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but let's see here. I know you mentioned that you talked to the Friday crew about wrapping the Forbidden Lands campaign, but have you guys talked about what's next? No, I've just primed the conversation, because I want people to think about it, and again, we're kind of in a weird space where I understand that it's tough to do any sort of like serious storytelling because our sessions are so infrequent. Even though in theory they're supposed to be weekly, it feels like they are, maybe once to twice a month on average. And so that obviously makes it very difficult in that respect. And also there's a temptation to try a new system. But then when you do a new system, people have to buy a new game and you're not sure if it's going to kick in. And then if you're only playing like once, you end up skipping, you play once and then you skip 3 weeks. And then by the time you play again, everyone's forgotten how to play. So it just has a lot of like momentum issues. And lastly, I talked about this is, I kind of understand at a certain level, there's individual players, but there's also the group dynamic. And you have to understand what that group dynamic likes. Even individual people have their own sort of, likes and dislikes, but the group itself can have, it's almost like it's its own personality. And I kind of understand that what my group's personality is like. And I think that there's an element there of, kicking ass and taking names. It's a little bit pulpy. It's a little bit, it's not superhero. It's not a group that I think wants the superhero experience, but it's definitely a, kind of a pulp action adventure, right? Where, you're hacking your way through, lots of minions and, you're not necessarily, concerned or troubled that you're just going to get, instantly one shot out of the sky. So I think that while it is fun to play different games, I think that I find myself when I look at the group and I see how they're responding, I always find myself, to be clear, I mean, in some ways I'm talking about, traditional D&D in a sense. Smith is going to want PF2 to try the commander. No. Smith's going to want to play 5th edition. He's going to want to play the new 5th edition. He's playing 5th edition right now. Smith is going to want to try out. Smith likes 5th edition a lot. Not like a lot, but I think he likes it a lot more than most people here probably do. So thank you, Damien. And if anything, by the way, I think Smith would be the harshest critic because he played a warlord in 4th edition. And I don't care what changes they put into the commander. The commander is never going to be a 4th edition warlord, okay? And not only did Smith play a 4th edition warlord, Smith played a 4th edition warlord who became Paragon level and became a battle captain, who became epic level and became a mythic sovereign, and became he was basically a proxy for Aragorn, right? He reunited the kingdom of Nerith, and he, found the Dawnbringer, the Sword of Kings, aka Andoril, Flame of the West. They recovered the Crown of Dragons, and he recovered his rightful ancestral seat of the Silver Throne. And with those 3 things, he was crowned the king of all Nereth. In any case, so Smith has not only has he played a warlord in 4th edition, he has plumbed the highest highs of that edition, and he has been, literally, the king of men, not of the party, the king of men. He rode into in epic levels. He rode into battle on the back of a silver dragon. It's tough. It's tough to beat that. Who does Smith play 5e with? He plays with his family. He plays with his wife, his oldest daughter, his middle son. I don't think their youngest son plays. Maybe he does now. I don't know. But Smith plays with his father, who plays with them. I know that he had also played a run of 5e game for another friend group of his that he and his wife share. I think it might have been from their church or something like that. But they had another group that they used to play 5e with back in the day. Because these were all people who played video games or even played MMOs, but none of them had ever played TTRPGs. So this was a couple years ago. But now he runs a campaign for his family, basically. And he was playing 4th edition, and he was very happy that he did that because these people all mostly came through MMOs, even including his dad and his wife. So fourth edition, has kind of a similarity, has kind of a crossover there between the two of them. But he, was very quickly like, yeah, there's just a lot of rules and it's going really slow. And, it'd be kind of be more fun to just go, fuck it, we ball. And, just play fifth edition and just, have your turn, tack, and move a bunch of whatever. Doesn't matter. It's not as tactical. He's like, but that's okay. Like my family and my kids, they don't care about being tactical. They just want to experience the fun of D&D. And it's just easier just to be like, advantage is a lot easier for, kids and for people who aren't as invested to understand than stacking modifiers and making sure that the bonus types don't overlap. And, I'm not saying that those people aren't capable of doing that. I'm saying they may not care to do it. It's a lot. It's a lot of math and a lot of numbers that you keep track of. So, fuck it, we ball. Take the advantage, indeed. So yeah, that's who Smith plays for. But yeah, so. My guess is that Smith will want to do that, but it's kind of a catch-22 though. It's kind of a catch-22 because the problem with D&D is every time we start playing D&D, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's interesting, and then quickly we sort of kind of go, okay, but where do we go from here? I always find myself. The first time somebody like misses in D&D and there's nothing there, there's just no recourse. There's nothing that they can do. I'm talking about like 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition. I just go, man, it reminds me so much. I'm not speaking for my whole group here. I'm speaking for me. But as I've said before about Torchbearer and specifically Mouse Guard, I don't care anymore. I've done it too many times. I don't care what we're fighting. I don't care what we beat. I don't care what the CR is. I don't care what we fight. I care what we fight for. And I don't want that. And that is something that I actually enjoy from a mechanical perspective. And this is one of the reasons why I really enjoy the games with these sort of narrative mechanical elements, where role-playing is essentially a mechanics-based approach rather than simply, fluffy bullshit time. So I thought I saw something from Bob. He said we should play Avatar. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how well that would go. I don't know. I don't know if the group is really interested in, like, obviously there's a lot of people there that really like Avatar. I think Tim bought like the super collector's edition. And I'm not saying that they're not capable of doing it, but is that really what they want to do week in and week out? My guess is no. Trey, the small, hello, howdy. Welcome. If you have any questions, by the way, feel free to throw it in chat. If you want to ask me a question about the fire, about role-playing games, or about any of my other hobbies or interests, woodworking, sailing, meat. It's a Ron Swanson joke. Baking, pizza making. I haven't knit in a while, so I don't know if I can answer your questions about knitting. I'd be happy to do so. I'm really, like I said, I've this week especially has been really tough. So many people have reached out to me and talked to me and just kind of, shared some experiences with them. Steven from Roll for Combat had some nice advice and words for me. So it's just been really nice to have people around that I can just hang out with that aren't assurance adjusters or fire restoration specialists or all that other stuff. Chandler says, skill-based Traveler or Mothership? Probably Traveler. I am strangely in love with Traveler. I don't know that I'll ever actually run a campaign of it, but like every convention I go to, I just keep getting another Traveler book. And I'm just like, I think they're fun. And I haven't like read them cover to cover, but I like buying them and flipping through them and the gear porn and some of the crunchiness to it. There's some things about Traveler I don't like, but the reason I would say Traveler over Mothership is I'm not a big horror fan. Chandler. I'm not a big horror fan. Space horror, liminal horror, Cthulhu horror. Horror is just not my thing. So, and Mothership is definitely like that, no one can hear you scream in space, I remember seeing a picture with a sailboat in the driveway. You still have that, or was that a while ago? Yes, so that was my AMF Puffer Sunfish sailboat that unfortunately so when you have a trailerable sailboat, sailboats have a keel, right? A keel is the kind of like the fin that extends underneath a boat. It's called the keel. And on a trailerable boat or on like a dinghy, basically, that it's movable. It can move up and it can move down. And it's usually called a center board or a dagger board. In mine, it's called a dagger board because it literally, you can like slide it vertically up out of the bottom of the boat. So in the middle of my boat, there's like a housing that actually has a hole in it that basically kind of looks into the water, and you slide in the dagger board to give yourself more keel. I had it fully down, and I was sailing in Lake Erie, and I don't think I did anything wrong, but there must have been some sort of underwater brush pile, rock pile, maybe a bunch of logs or something. Either way, I was sailing along at a good clip, and my dagger board hit something. I didn't run aground or anything like that, but my dagger board hit. So what ended up happening is that cracked my boat. Now it's still totally sailworthy. In fact, that boat could probably be cut in half and it would still float. It just swamped a lot, and it would just take on water, and you had to like bail it every like 20 minutes. You had to start bailing out some water so it didn't like completely flounder. And I just was like, I don't want to fix it. It's not enough work. So I didn't have a place to put it. So I ended up trailering it over to my parents' house, and it has been sitting in their backyard. I mean, the sails and the ropes and the sheets, those are all in sail bags, and those are, actually, I take it back. They're destroyed now too, because fuck, they were in my garage. Well, there you go. Well, so now it's probably truly lost, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the sail bag protected them, because the sail bag kind of closes and cinches at the top. So fingers crossed, maybe it's not completely destroyed, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that it probably is now. Damn. I just thought of that. Wow, that's brutal. So, any case, it was cracked, and I didn't really want to fix it, and I didn't want to like get a bunch of marine epoxy / resin and try to like fix it all up. And I never really figured out what I wanted to do with it. And I was kind of like tempted to go buy a Hobie cat. But I never did. Mostly because I don't have a house. I live in a condo. I don't really have a place to park or store a boat. I don't want to get a dock, and I don't want to like keep it. I'd like to trailer it, but I would need to have like a actual big backyard or separate building or something where I could keep the boat. Have you ever tried the Wheel of Time RPG? I have it, but never gave it a go. I own the Wheel of Time RPG. It was part of that. I'm assuming you're talking about the one from the D20 era. I never, I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool to read. I liked the way that they did the classes, but I never actually played it. I don't know if I'd like playing in the Wheel of Time. I have a big problem with playing in established IPs, especially when those established IPs usually have some sort of messianic, super-powered Jesus figure, I'm not saying that Luke Skywalker is that, but he kind of. They write the Skywalker dynasty is sort of like special, and Anakin is special. And if you play Dune, right, Paul Atreides is special. And if you play Wheel of Time, it's like, well, are you Taverin? Are you the Dragon Reborn? Right? No? Okay, well then you're just some guy, That's not as interesting to me, especially when you've got, the dragon is out running around doing stuff. So, and then also you sometimes, like, this is my problem with like Lord of the Rings. I've seen like a lot of the Lord of the Rings games have come out. The one from Cubicle 7, the one now from Free League. Like, they think they get around it by saying, okay, we're going to set it like 50 years before the events of the Lord of the Rings. We're going to set it in that time, maybe between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, right? So that way it's like, yeah, but I know that everything that we're doing is pointless because nothing that we're doing is going to beat the shadow. The only thing that's going to beat the shadow is destroying the One Ring. And that's not going to happen yet. I mean, unless you like pull out some narrative metacurrency and you go into the Misty Mountains and track down Gollum and kill him yourself and then take the ring to Mordor and throw it in. But you're not going to do that. So I find it to be feels kind of pointless. Smith and I actually had an extended conversation about where I would actually be far more interested if I was playing something like Lord of the Rings. I would actually be far more interested in playing Lord of the Rings in the Fourth Age. And of course, a lot of people would say, well, that would be really boring and pointless because Sauron is destroyed. Sure, Sauron's destroyed, but it's in the Fourth Age, the Ishtari have left Middle Earth. The elves have left Middle Earth. Everything is much more kind of lower power. There isn't this monolithic, great evil, I am Mr. Big Bad Guy. And, there's still disagreements. There's still forces. There's still things that need to be dealt with. And instead of relying on elves and wizards, Valar, you just do it yourself. And that I think is really, really cool. So I would actually be more interested in playing a Fourth Age Lord of the Rings game than I would pretty much any other prior age. I should get an office and then store my boat there, kill two birds with one stone. Well, it's funny that you say that. For many years, my first studio where we started off when I did store my boat out back because I had parking spaces. They were my parking spaces. And I told the landlord, I said, yeah, I'm going to store my boat back there. Is the dagger board also the flip it back over button when you capsize? Yes. Typically, you will stand on the dagger board when you were trying to right the boat after a capsize. Assuming you did if it completely flipped over and turtled, well, then you got a little bit more work to do. But if it just flipped over 90 degrees into the water, then yeah, you swim around to the other side, you loose the sheets, you grab a hiking strap or a riding strap, stand on the dagger board, pull, scoop your buddy back into the boat, and then you get in. Pretty elementary. Derek just wounded Beowulf eternally. I just don't like pirates. I just think the genre of pirates doesn't interest me. Like the movie with Russell Crowe, Master and Commander, Far Side of the World. That was pretty cool. That's definitely set in the Age of Sail. That's definitely set, after what we would consider traditional medieval fantasy time periods. I still thought that was a great movie, but they weren't pirates. To be fair, Fall of Eriador would also be interesting, I think. It could be, but again, you know that Eriador is going to fall. You know that Angmar is going to destroy, the Kingdom of the North. So there's kind of like a eventuality there. And yeah, I get it. You could go, well, we could change the future. But I feel that makes my whole campaign suddenly feel like it's a Back to the Future movie where we're like fighting against this destiny, like it's Terminator 2. And I like drawing maps and leaving blanks. So I'm much more interested in something that is unknown. Yeah, exactly. Lord of the Rings dealing with you have the Haradrim, you have Umbar, you have the Easterlings. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Lord of the Rings other than just Sauron. So Ken says, I enjoyed the Birthright stream and I'm looking forward to more setting streams. There's a lot of interesting stuff in those old settings. There sure is. I was really excited and kind of blown away by how cool Birthright was. I mean, I always knew sort of thought I would like it, but to be fair, I think older Derek likes it a lot more than maybe younger Derek would have liked. I don't know if you're asking me this question. Have you watched E.C. Henry's latest video? I think you'll like it. I don't know if I know who E.C. Henry is. All right, you know what? You are asking me that. No, I do not know who that is. I don't think. E.C. Henry. He talks about Star Wars and Star Trek, it looks like. Well, he's got several videos with millions of views, so he's doing all right by me. So this is kind of something that has come up a lot. Not come up a lot. Why don't you check the Oracle preview on stream with us? Is it a preview or is it a video? Or is it actually is it from the blog? It's an article. Okay. One second. Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay. I see it in the flickering light, flickering on my monitor. I hear it in the cawing of seagulls. I smell it in the coffee, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we don't care about that. Oracles are divine spellcasters who draw their power not from prayer or devotion to deity, but their connection to the great mystery of the universe, yada, yada, yada. While this unique relationship with the divine and its power at a price theme offers... I just love how this is even written. Offer strong and appealing role-playing hooks. I mean, obviously people who have watched I've watched this channel before know that we always make fun about no, it's balanced by its role-playing opportunity. The fighter isn't S tier because the role-playing opportunities aren't here. But anyways, the idea that it offers strong and appealing role hooks that are very Galarian. What is the role of an oracle in a world where prophecy is lost? The original Oracle was originally thought of as an intimidatingly complex or as a class that made the player jump through hoops to unlock its potential. That's fair enough. The remastered Oracle has been changed in ways both large and small to reduce its complexity and pain points while still allowing players who want to risk fate to draw upon their curse to gain power. The big change. Instead of an Oracle's curse giving them a large suite of abilities, some of which are buffs, some of which are debuffs, and some of which might go either way, the Oracle's curse now strictly debuffs the player. We've done it. No, come back. I promise this made the class stronger. Okay, well, that's kind of interesting. Because the classic Oracle's curses boosted some stats while lowering others, it could be unclear whether being cursed was a benefit you were trying to get ASAP or a price you had to strategically work around. In the remaster, there's always a price, which lets us significantly dial up the power that you get for paying it. Something that we frequently said here on this channel is if you're going to make me pay a price, then I need to get something for it. I can't be like, oh, I got stronger by taking on a weakness, but that strength that I just gained is tied into my class balance. So without it, I'm actually just a weak character. And so in order for me to be on par with other characters who are just not cursed, I have to be cursed. That was kind of the core issue with the Oracle. In the remaster, there's always a price, which lets us significantly dial up the power that you get for paying for it and keeps the trade-off simple to understand. Cheat the rules of creation for power, and you get cursed. The new Oracle's Curse-Bound trait appears not on their focus spells, but instead on specific feats and other actions that have a notable advantage over similarly leveled feats, like cheating the action economy, letting you learn about your target without a skill check, God forbid, or other similar benefits. Each mystery grants a curse-bound ability at level 1 to let them draw on this power, like Foretell Harm. Free action, Foretell Harm, level 1 feat. Curse-bound Divine Oracle. This is... Oh, you're a spellcaster. I'm not sure if you get a... feat at level 1. Alternate Game Master. Thank you. Losing momentum is tough. 6 to 12 weeks between games. Oof. Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, that's just absolutely brutal. I don't know what you're supposed to do there. You know, that's just a tough spot to be in. But I'll say this: it's been tough for us. We're not quite 6 to 12 weeks between games, but you know, it sometimes it's 3 to 4 weeks, and that is really, really brutal. So I can only imagine, unless your game is set up to do that. But thank you, AGM, for that. All right, once per round is a free action. Already good stuff. Your previous action was to cast a non-cantrip spell that dealt damage. So you don't have to hit, you just do it. Okay. Your magic echoes ominously as you glimpse injury in the target's future. At the beginning of your target's next turn, it takes damage equal to twice the triggering spell's rank as seemingly random misfortune finds it. The damage and type is of a type matching the spell. So if you dealt fire damage, a flame might spontaneously ignite on them, or they burn their hand on a torch. They are then immune for 24 hours. So for a free action, once per round, if we damage somebody, or if we cast a spell that dealt damage to our target, at the beginning of their turn, they take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, or 20 damage for a free action. But whenever we use a curse-bound ability, which we can see this is, our curse-bound condition increases in value. This is a unique condition that only appears in the Oracle class. As it increases, the deleterious effects of your curse increase as well, like giving you a penalty to certain saving throws or a weakness to certain damage types. Like the classic Oracle, the remastered Oracle can tolerate higher and higher curse-bound values as they increase in level, letting them use more curse-bound abilities. While most of these curse effects are relatively simple, we do know that a lot of Oracle players enjoyed the more disruptive curse effects that could really throw variety into your battle. We've kept many of these as curse-bound feats like Meddling Futures or Thousand Visions, which are now selectable by any mystery. Now Oracle players who want to opt into the complexity can do so, and Oracles who want straightforward benefits. So you know, that's a good change. It's a good change. Other changes. Damien says that feat also gives a debuff, not just damage. Did I miss something? Did I not read it? It looks like it just does damage. Okay. We've made it easier to tailor your Oracle spell list to your mystery. Each mystery now grants 3 thematic spells, and all Oracles automatically gain a Divine Access clan feature about halfway through their career. Cool. We've doubled the number of domains who want to harness domain magic. We've added dashes of ominous, portentous, delirious flavor throughout the class, making it feel like you're really channeling otherworldly powers. And with more streamlined mysteries and curses, we had room to add a greater number of unique Oracle feats, a thing that was also cited as lacking in the classic Oracle. There was not a lot of good feats, for sure. Take a look at a unique feat for Ancestors or Battle Oracles, the Dead Walk, a level 10 feat that takes 2 actions, has the Curse-bound trait. You have to be a member of the Ancestors or Battle Mystery. You beseech warriors to come forth and aid you. 2 ghostly warriors manifest within 30-foot emanation of you. Each attempt a strike against an adjacent enemy using your spell attack modifier and then disappear. Attacks using spell attack modifiers are usually pretty rough, especially at level 10. Let's just call it what it is. The warriors' strikes each deal 4d6 spirit damage, and the warriors can flank with one another and with your allies. If you are If you are curse-bound 2 when you use the Dead Walk, you instead summon 3 warriors, and if you are curse-bound 3, you summon 4 warriors. They disappear at the start of your next turn. That is very cool. This is exactly what I wanted to see in the Oracle. This is very good. This is very good. I don't know about that first thing, but this is very good because this is that risk reward. You're like, getting 2 warriors with a spell attack. Okay, they can flank. They can flank with my allies. They disappear at the start of my turn, so I can set up 2 flanks. My spell attack modifier is going to be maybe a couple of points behind, but it's 46 damage, And as far as I can tell, this isn't a spell. So I could do this every round, but it is curse bound. So my curse increases. But then if my curse is really bad, then I get 3 or 4. Now, if you're doing this, and also, by the way, I don't see any of the garbage language. It could be, maybe this is literally the text of the feat. But a lot of times, you know this, I know this. You know, you'd be like, there'd be some restriction in here, like it uses your multiple attack penalty, or the spirits all share a multiple attack penalty. If this feat was written in 2019, I'm telling you, or 2020, it would have said the spirits share a multiple attack penalty with you, or something like that. But as far as I can read this, if we're Cursebound 2 or Cursebound 3, we're getting 3 or 4 attacks for no spell slot that can flank, that are each dealing 4d6 spirit damage, which I'm led to believe is a fairly useful damage type because it's not oftentimes resisted. I think it just maybe constructs or something are immune to it. And it's within a 30-foot emanation of you, so you could have one over here 30 feet, one over there 30 feet. Now, to that point, this is the type of ability, it does take 2 actions, to be clear. This is a type of ability where I will have wanted to pump up my Cursebound before I really get the most value of that. And so Shadram, that's why, damage for free action is nice, but if it's too severe a cost, then 2 times rank doesn't seem like that much. I agree that this isn't a lot of damage. But part of the reason that I might be proccing this damage is because I really just want to get my Cursebound value up. And this doesn't take an action. So I can spend 2 actions to cast a spell. I can take my 3rd action to do something else, move another 1-action activity. But I can just, for free, get my Cursebound up. And I want to pump my Cursebound in potentially action-efficient ways so that I can start popping the Dead Walk for the last, round or 2 of the combat and get, 3 or 4 of these Spirit Warrior techs. It's very cool. Again, we don't have the full text of the thing, so I don't know if I don't know if this scales with level, but one would hope. And I'm pretty impressed with the damage. I mean, for no slots, that's just pretty cool to me. So I'm a fan. I am a fan. So there you go. Does Paizo ever do bundles? I don't know. I do not know. I'm sure they do. Well, they did a bundle on all their PF2 stuff when they started releasing the remaster, and everyone went out and bought Pathfinder 2 and then found out that a new edition was coming out, I think. Trey, Derek, you need to give Roll for Combat a list of your video and audio gear. I love their streams, but they need an upgrade. Ooh, shots fired. And you know what's funny? Again, this is the bad microphone, right? This is the good one. This is the good microphone. This is the RE20. Although I'm sure with the internet compression and everything that's happening from the YouTube algorithm or the OBS compression and the YouTube streaming, it probably sounds pretty similar. But this is actually the headset, which is not nearly as good. Although this is an expensive headset. Well, not, the thing is, Trey, not everybody, the lens on this camera is probably more money than most people's PCs cost. So I'm not saying that you need a lens that quality, but I am saying that, my audiovisual setup is, it's pretty extra. So I'm not suggesting that people go out and do that. That being said, advice for any streamers out there. I get the Elgato webcams, or the built-in webcams. I mean, again, this is very important. People talk about resolution and they'll say, "Oh, I have a 4K camera." The thing is, resolution is not what you think it is when it comes to quality. And there's just no way that a little, $100, $50 USB camera is ever going to be able to deliver the kind of quality and clarity that a full sensor premium a digital image processor is going to be able to do. And so rocking that C930. Yeah, I got I used to have one, just it's out of my reach. But yeah, I mean, I have a C930, that's what I used back when we were first playing on like Roll20 and some of my early Zoom calls. So I would say that if you really want to get serious about streaming, that you need to invest in what I would get a mirrorless, we used to call them DSLRs, but now they're just mirrorless professional cameras. I would, pick a brand like Sony or Canon or Nikon. I would get a good quality lens and, learn maybe a little bit about photography. But even a relatively cheap prosumer level camera, it's just going to give you so much better image quality than the physics of a small lens do not allow it for it. So, yeah, look, yes, me having photography experience definitely helps for sure. And yes, specifically a failed photography business. So it is true. If I was like, here's the thing. I was going to say, it's not like if I was going to start streaming, I would go out and buy, a $1,000, a $5,000 camera and go buy a $3,000 lens, right? Like I would never, swipe that, but whatever. I would never suggest that. That being said, I was a photographer, when it came to audio, if you remember, when I first started, we had some pretty cheap little Audio Technica mics. And then very quickly, we upgraded to the Rode, and I upgraded to the Shure SM7B. And then obviously lately I've been rocking this Electro Voice RE20. And I think that audio is more important than the video. Go audio first. Sound quality ladders, more of it. Yes, absolutely. So many people watch this on their phone anyways, or they just listen to it. So honestly, the video quality to me, and also too, it depends on what you're doing. It's just my face. If I was playing like and then it wouldn't matter for a camera, I guess. But if I was playing some video game, obviously you'd want to be able to see what's going on in the video game screen. Or if for some odd reason I had some top-down shot and I was showing you some product or something, oh, look at this brand new Get Fucked sticker, then I would want you to see that. But for the most part, it's just my face. So whether or not it's like good image quality or not doesn't really affect the value of the stream to you. But we're all listening. And so that's where I think that audio is more important than the video quality. At least you had one. Mine failed before it started. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it. At least APS-C or a larger sensor, full size preferable. Don't mess around with the 1.25. Yeah, I would definitely say that you should get a crop size sensor, APS-C, on a Canon, or go with a full size if you can, for sure. I also would recommend, because that's the other thing. I don't know if you guys are really gonna be able to see this. I have a light here, which is 4 feet by 4 feet. So it is a massive light, huge soft light, and it's connected to an aperture Amaran. And so I have really good lighting in here because I have 2 specific lights. And as a result, I can, my sensor doesn't have to do as much work. It could. It's a good sensor. But a lot of people are going to not have the right lighting. And so having a larger sensor allows you to get better image quality for sure. Especially when YouTube defaults you to 720 so often. Why? Because it saves them money. Because if they only have to broadcast at 720, that's why YouTube will almost always default to 720, even if you can support 1080, because it doesn't even let you select that as your preference anymore. They got rid of that option because a lot of people don't notice. They never update. And when you're streaming at 720 versus streaming at 1080, YouTube's servers are having to do that much more work. They're having to spend that much more money. And so they just kind of, get rid of it. Yes. I mean, look, I mean, it did, but it's not the only thing. You tried this headset and I didn't like it. Well, I'm used to it. So this is Audio-Technica a brand, and my normal headphones are these. These are the ATH M50s. So I'm used to using Audio-Technica headphones. So these feel like right at home for me. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be comfortable, right? It's got to be something that you're comfortable wearing. I will say that I'm probably going to buy secondhand. Like these are not the default cups that come with this headset. These are aftermarket cups, and I'll probably buy a pair of the same type for these. These are a little bit harder than I would like them to be. Does it hurt having the light in your face all the time? I don't mind it, but like when we do stuff at the studio, it's horrible for Smith. In fact, a lot of lighting decisions that I made at the studio were done with me trying to figure out a way as best as possible that I could light Smith and not have it be completely, horrific for him. But for me, no, because it's soft. It's got several layers of diffusion fabric in front of it. And so to me, it's just kind of like, it's almost like having a big window over here, When I'm gaming on video, I want more key lighting. I open a blank note, but that does work. Actually, that does work pretty good. What modifier do you use for your light? I have a really big Octobox. I don't know who made it, but it's just a really big Octobox, and it's got two layers of. It's got an inner baffle. It's got an inner diffusion baffle, and then it has the outer diffusion baffle. I used to have a grid on it, but I took the grid off, and now it's just nice even light spill all over the place. And then, so by the way, so that's my key light. Okay, so they're all aperture lights, so they can be accessed via my thing. So this is my key light here, and so I also have another aperture light off of me. This is my fill light. So this is just filling in the shadowed side of my face. This is my key light back on. So for example, if I go back to my app here, so without the fill light, I just have the big key light to my left, and you get this very dark, very contrasty image because this side of my face is basically facing mostly a dark room. And so I have another light, which is at a lower intensity to sort of fill in those shadows while still giving me shape and definition, because this side of my face is brighter than this side of my face by what we say in the industry, one stop, which is a 50% reduction of light. So in other words, this side of my face is twice as bright as this side of my face. And I know that because I tested it with a light meter. But anyways, that's what I use for lighting. So I just have those two. I have an Aperture Amaran 100 or something, or 200X, and then there's like a 200X here. Maybe this is a 100 and that's a 200. Anyways, you had the M50s for years, but switched to the Bose 700s when I started working from home because I like walking around my office and going over my whiteboard. I miss the sound quality though. Yeah, I have a pair of Bose Quiet Comfort 2s that I've used for years. I had the original pair of Quiet Comfort 1s, and when they came out with the 2s, I got the 2s. I know there's the 3s are out now, but I really love the only reason I would update to the, honestly, this is how sad it is. I almost updated to the Quiet Comfort 3s is because they have a USB-C charging port. My Bose Quiet Comfort 2s have the old USB-B, USB-C, like the weird trapezoid charger that like Android phones and Windows phones used to use. And it's just annoying because I don't have those anymore. Like everything I have is USB-C. And so whenever I want to charge my wireless Bose noise canceling headphones, I have to find like this archaic plug or charger. Micro USB. Thank you, Casey. I knew it had a name. I just didn't know what it was. I wasn't even close, but yes. Anyways, I don't have them around my house. Like right now on my desk, there's like USB-C. I have like 8 USB-C things, but I don't have any of those. But anyways, the Bose quality, the Bose QCs are really good. I love them, and they're very soft. And they got a lot of great bass, and the noise cancellation is amazing. So yeah, damn crazy how much of a difference lighting makes. Yeah, I mean, if I turn off my lights, so that's my room without lights. That's just the that's just the thing. Oh, NAND lights are great. Yeah, NAND lights are really great. The Forza Mini, those are both really good quality lights. Anyways, room without lights looks dark. Well, okay. Yes, that's true. But, if I come over here, let me see. I don't even know if this will work. But if I come over here and turn on the room light, it's like that's my room with the room light on, It's just, it looks horrible. So, now to be fair, I could crank up the ISO on my camera, and then it would, even though it was dark, it would actually look fine. All right, sorry, we got distracted there. We're just talking about a lot of stuff here. Any other? We got about 20 minutes left. Any other random questions? Anybody want to just shoot the shit? We can hang out and we'll call it a night. Again, thank you everybody who's said. I've had so many nice comments made to me from patrons, from just people from the channel. So many generous tips and donations. Incredible. I mean, again. Those were that was a pretty emotional stream on Tuesday, and everybody has just been and even tonight continue to be super supportive and thankful for me, and I appreciate it. There's it's okay, Trey. It happens, buddy Trey. We don't need an excuse. You don't ever have to apologize about tangents around here. Okay, we are the lords of tangents. What I was gonna say is I will say. I have no small amount of pride that my house. All right. I don't, I'm not a flexing kind of guy. I mean, I'll take my wins where I can get them. Sorry, I had to go over here. I'll take my wins where I can get them. But I got to say, my house caught on fire on Sunday. I spent Sunday evening in the emergency room being treated for burns, right, and smoke inhalation. I didn't have power because my fuse box had melted in the garage. Monday, I had an electric company come out to do an inspection, and they determined it was ruined. And they said, but we can be here Tuesday morning to put in an entirely new box and rewire the bottom part of your house. And I said, okay. So they did that. Well, the garage anyways. And then they got the power back on around 8. And we came into the house. We set up some air filters. Upstairs seemed good and clean. And I thought, you know what? I want to hang out. Internet's working. Let's stream. So we streamed at 10 p.m. I think we streamed to like 1 or 2 a.m. I don't remember what time it was. It was pretty late. And we're here tonight, Thursday. Now, sure, we're not covering any specific RPG stuff. Although we actually did talk a lot about RPGs, mostly Pathfinder 2 tonight. We talked about the Oracle. We talked about Quest for the Frozen Flame. So why am I saying all this? Because my house fucking almost burned down because my garage is in ashes. And I still put out 2 streams this week. And I still produced like 7 hours of content. So, I'm going to pat myself on the back on that one. I get sometimes things happen and not everybody can, be out there. But for me, and I think this is an important distinction. For me, this isn't. I mean, look, it can be stressful, but this is not work. This is like when you run a game for your friends. It's not work. You're excited to do it. You're happy to do it. You've been looking forward to doing it, but it's not. It is a form of work, right? It's not like it's a complete just show up and woohoo. So, that's what I think is so important. Unikatsu, did you go to work? Well, I work from home. But no, this week I basically did about half of my normal work. Now, to be fair, it was a perfect week for my house to burn down because a lot of my teammates this week, including my boss, well, my boss was on vacation this week, so he wasn't going to be giving me any assignments. But then the other members of my team, including the upper level management, like people like Smith and Kaz, they were all going to DC this week. So basically, it was kind of a just keep the boat afloat type week anyways. Just do basic recurring work, just get everything done. But all my meetings got canceled anyways before any of this even happened. So it was a very easy week in terms of my house, me not having power for the first 2 days of the week. And then, and me having to run around and do a bunch of other stuff. Shadram, thank you for that, for going above and beyond for this community. Well, thank you, Shadram. I'm glad you appreciate it. I certainly appreciate you. I love having you be part of this community, and thank you so much for that support. And love having you. I love my Anzac people. One of my dreams is I want to make. I mean, it's been on my bucket list forever. I want to go. I mean, call me a fanboy. I want to fucking go to Hobbiton. Okay, I want to go on the stupid. I'm sure New Zealand has like an entire industry based around Lord of the Rings tourism, right? And I want to do that. I want to do that. And I promise you, if I go to New Zealand, I'm going to meet up with some folks. I don't know when, but it's on my list. It was a perfect week for my house. Look, Jonathan, if we accept that it was going to happen regardless, right? That there was no way that I was going to randomly go, I'm going to go randomly go check my freezer and see if it's having any electrical shorting issues, okay? If we accept that it was going to happen, then this was kind of the best week for it to happen. 2 weeks earlier, I would have been about to go to Origins. I would have about to, 2 weeks later, my dog is having surgery. This is kind of the best time for, and like I said, all my boss is on vacation. My team, including the executive committee of my team, is in Washington, D.C. this week. So all my meetings got canceled. Even the project managers are in D.C. So they're not even assigning me stuff. So it was basically just keep my normal stuff afloat. Spend some time on a couple of minor things, but for the most part, I've basically been checked out. And I told him, I said, hey, my house burned down. I'm almost burned down. I'm MIA. Unikasi, $5 says fire extinguisher fun. Well, a couple of things, Unikasi. I know you made me miss Tuesday. I have a lot of fire extinguishers. Okay. The reason I have burns is because I tried to fight the fire. I keep a fire extinguisher under every sink in my house. And I also keep one in the garage. Not that really mattered. And when I discovered that there's smoke coming from my house, I grabbed a fire extinguisher. I kind of went to go find out where it was. I look in my laundry room, my mud room, and I see smoke is kind of billowing from the door, going to the garage. The door didn't feel too hot, so I didn't really sure what was going on. I didn't really know what it could be. I open up the door, get hit, with the smoke. Then the smoke got me. And I just unloaded an entire can of, a fire extinguisher powder or whatever that stuff is. And it didn't do enough or it didn't do anything. I don't know. Maybe it saved my house. I doubt it. And I said, well, fuck that. I tried. I did the best thing I could do. I mean, I made my effort to fight this fire or to at least control it. I closed the door, closed a bunch of other doors on the first floor, grabbed my dogs, got out, dialed 911, let my neighbors know. The building is on fire. So long story short, my fire extinguisher is out. Well, one of them is out. And so I am going to buy a new fire extinguisher, but I am not going to buy a little fire extinguisher, the $20 or $30 fire extinguisher that you get from like Home Depot or Lowe's. I mean, those are fine and you should have them around your house. And I'm sure they work perfectly fine on a kitchen fire or an oven fire that, I'm going to get me like a $60, $70, like one with like the black hose, like the kind that you would see in a hotel that you break the glass. Yeah. Get a full halon system for my garage. It'll be like Cyberdyne systems from T2. Fine. Aloe vera fun. Okay. Well, luckily that's a good thing to support because the ER sent me home with basically a $200 tube of aloe vera slash, triple antibiotic Neosporin. So I have to pay for that because the deductible on my healthcare is pretty high. I have a $3,200 healthcare deductible. And I'm sure spending 5 hours in the ER along with an ambulance ride is going to very easily smash that. To be fair, disasters are a huge edge in the algorithm. That's true. I remember when that happened, Bob. Actually, funny story is when I told that story to people at my work, my boss, who has kids, young kids, like not, I think younger than you, Bob, but my boss at the time, he no longer is my boss. And I said, buddy, you need some fire extinguishers. He's like, I'll get on that. I go, no, you won't. I go, what's your address? And I went on to Amazon and I bought 2 fire extinguishers and I sent them to his house. And I said, put these underneath your sinks and then just remember that they're there. Oh, that's sweet. You've been there 5 times. They have a night tour and the Hobbit feast. Oh my God, that sounds incredible. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I assumed you meant Hobbiton. Yes, Hobbiton. I believe Lord of the Rings is 90% of New Zealand's gross national product. That's fine. Ain't nobody got time for that. Again, I said this before. I basically lived her experience because I got up. I was going to go get me a cold pop, and I thought somebody was barbecuing, and I came downstairs and I said, "Oh Lord Jesus, it's a fire." And I didn't grab no shoes or nothing. Jesus, I ran for my life, and then the smoke got me. And I don't have bronchitis, but I definitely don't have time for that. Right. I was wrong this whole time. Feats make total sense because I did not have fight fires feet. So actually, Kyle, there may have been a fight fires move, but I didn't have it. So when I went to go fight the fire, the GM made a GM move and they said, well, you fail and the smoke burns you. So what do you do now? So now what do you do? And I was like, shit, this is definitely a complication. I got to get the hell out of here. You forgot this was scheduled. Unacceptable. Dan, U.S. healthcare, I forget you have to pay for everything. We sure do, buddy. We sure do. Not everything, just the deductible. Now, see, GM Scott says he would have called for a Defy Danger. That is totally reasonable. Defy Danger could be a good role as well. You know what, GM Scott? I think you're right. I think Defy Danger would be the right move there. I am defying the danger of this house fire, this garage fire. And if I succeed, then I can do what I want. So glad we can laugh about this. The only scenario in which I would not be laughing about this would be if my dogs or any of my neighbors had been hurt. If for whatever reason, this had gotten way out of control and my entire house was completely destroyed. I doubt the fire department got there soon enough that I doubt it would have like literally burnt to the ground, but I'm talking about a total loss, the whole house. I lost all my stuff, all my books, but my dogs were fine and everybody else is safe. All right. Maybe the Tuesday stream wouldn't have happened, but the Thursday stream tonight, I would be at a Starbucks. I'd be on my phone streaming. We'd be talking about it and I'd be like, dude, it's rough. It's horrible. And I'd be talking about, well, everybody knows I was trying to buy a new house anyway. So this makes it really easy. I mean, I would be talking about this as well. Notice how he left out the roommates. My roommate was not home. She was out with a friend. So I was home alone. Right. I could have assessed the situation. Although GM Scott, that's another great example of where someone going to assess the situation. You could argue if the fire is dangerous enough that maybe, that's giving the GM a golden opportunity. Certainly if somebody rolls a 6-, you have a hard move to make. And I think that you have the fictional positioning to make that hard move. Right. Normally, I would say it's kind of tough to just do a hard move without, like provocation. I like to frame my soft moves. But if there's smoke, filling the room and then somebody goes to assess the situation, they roll a 6-. I describe how you go, well, you're examining and looking around. You roll a 6-. You go to the one door. As you go to reach for the handle, boom, the door explodes and a gout of flame and smoke engulfs you. Take some damage or take a condition, and that would probably be very appropriate if they roll a 6-. Clearly, I did not roll a 10+ because I did not succeed at putting out the fire. Oh, yes, if I died, I would also not be laughing, at least not on the stream. That is also correct. Phone stream from... Oh. Wow. I take back everything I said about being awesome. How did I not do that? That would have been perfect. That would have been perfect. Yes, I should have done a phone stream from the garage. That is way better than any idea I've had ever. Oh, Bob is absolutely correct. So, right. So I go to put the fire out. I say, GM, I'm going to put the fire out. I'm going to open up the door and get in there. And the GM goes, okay, well, you're going to have to defy danger to even try to get in there. And I go, okay, boom. I roll a 6-. The GM goes, you unload the entire can of spray, but it doesn't seem to have any effect. The smoke billows in, striking you in the face, take a condition, and burns land on your arms. You realize that you've accomplished nothing, and now smoke and hot boiling smoke is pouring into the room. What do? I go, okay, I'm going to close the door, and I'm going to run in the house, and I'm going to get my dogs and get out. I'm like, okay, well, the house is on fire. The dogs are kind of running around. You're still defying danger. Go ahead and roll it. Bob, exactly. I rolled a 7, 8, 9. The GM goes, okay, you succeed. You get the dogs out. You manage to figure out what's going on. You get them. You call over to the one. You grab them without hurting them. You get the leashes on them, and you get them out to your car that's in the driveway. But you roll 7, 8, or 9. There's a complication. You don't have your phone, and your house is on fire. How are you going to call 911? And you go, shit, I got to go back in the house, which I did. I ran upstairs to go grab my phone so I could call 911. So, Bob, that is well done, Bob. Gain a hero point. That was very good. And by the way, this is why I really like Powered by the Apocalypse, because it's such a great way of converting a reality, fiction into a game mechanical terms and terminology. Because so often in life, we don't get successes, we don't get failures, we get these mixed successes, we get these mixed beats, and those are very, very powerful and potent. I saw a question from a while ago, and I missed it. Let's see here. Knights of Last Tangent. KC says, I'm sure the fire may have changed some plans, but any summer vacation plans, cruise with Mama Melinda on the calendar. Yeah, so KC, earlier this year, we usually go in like April or May with my mom. But my dad was having health issues throughout the end of last year, which is when we usually plan our cruises. And even in the beginning of this year, he was having health problems. He was in and out. He had several hospitalizations, some that lasted over a week. He's been having a lot of, he has COPD, and he was having some low oxygen issues. And he's not the best patient when it comes to like taking care of himself and staying on his oxygen and all this other stuff. So my mom and I both agreed that it wasn't a good time for us to go. So we kind of like postponed it indefinitely, but we, in theory, want to go and do something. Yes. I mean, this definitely changes plans, but in terms of my summer plans, none. The only thing is I might go to Gen Con for like a day or two. What I'm thinking is I'm going to do, again, I bought the badge and I forgot to refund it. So they got my money, and I said, well, I don't want to do this. Now, I don't want to turn this into a Gen Con thing, but again, when I go to Gen Con, when I was complaining about Gen Con, people were like, oh, it's fine. You can just take an Uber in, or you can drive your car in. You can be 45 minutes away and then park your car and then come in. I think part of the problem is people don't approach Gen Con the way that I approach Gen Con. When I go to Gen Con, if you played with me at Origins, you'll know that several times a day, I'm walking around with like a massive duffel bag full of gaming stuff, full of a board game for us to play, full of a new RPG for us to play. When I go to Gen Con and stuff like that, I've had these for a long time, but I have these laminated character stands that I use. Sorry, it's all messed up now, right? This must have been Smith's. I have these laminated character tents that I use that let you put your character name, their pronouns. You can put your name, your pronouns, and on the back of it, usually it's kind of designed for Dungeon World and or D&D because those are the things that I've run the most at cons. But what's your GM's name, pronouns, your character name, so that you remember it. My point is, I come to play. It's like an army for me. I have a ton of stuff, and so, for me, part of going to Gen Con is just having all my shit. And there's no way I'm lugging that around. I'm not gonna go back to the parking garage that's 5 blocks away and then trek that all in just so we can play one game and then trek it back. What about the stuff I'm gonna buy? And then certainly that's not a case if it's an Uber, right? And so a lot of people said I was being a big baby because I didn't get a hotel nearby. But it's not. It's more than that. It's that my experience in conventions isn't just showing up as a tourist. Okay, if I went to Gen Con and I entered the convention center and I'm not there to run games for anybody. I'm not there to play board games. I'm not there to do meet and greets. I'm not there to do a live stream. Okay, which since I've had this channel, when we go to conventions, we do live streams. If I wasn't there to do any of that, if I was just a complete tourist and I'm just like, I'm here with my empty backpack and I have nothing else, and the only other thing I brought to Gen Con was some clothes and some snack packs. Okay, great. I could see where you driving in on an Uber isn't really going to affect your experience. But for me, it does, because my experience is sort of, kind of going in hard and having like my con bug out bag and being able to one Gen Con, I brought one of those collapsible wagons that parents drag their kids around at the zoo because I needed something to help shuttle back and forth all of the different gaming material. And my hotel was connected, for God's sake. And it was still kind of a pain in the ass. So anyways, my thought process this year for the summer is, since I have the thing, and then if, by the way, I was going to completely not do any of that because of the fire. Tuesday changed that. Right. The donations, the generosity, the incredible support tonight is part of that as well. Makes it so that the financial, okay, you can't be messing around. You can't be playing around. It gives me financial safety to be able to not only comfortably handle these problems that I'm dealing with right now, but also probably allow myself the luxury to maybe go. That being said, I'm going to be going as Francois says, I'm going to go as a tourist. It's the only option that I can really go for. And also, I know it's going to be really crowded, and it's even gotten to a point where it's too crowded for me. I've become more introverted. I do not want to be there on Saturday. So if anything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive Wednesday night or Wednesday. I'm going to drive and I'm going to get a hotel, probably like decently outside the city. Like a little, maybe even like a little cheap motel. I'm going to get it Wednesday night, check in, check out. Thursday morning, drive into the city early, get a parking space, go there all day Thursday, be a tourist. And then if I can find something affordable that's not horribly too far away, maybe I'll book a second night. I'll sleep Friday. I'll get up. I'll go to the con hall in the morning, go down there, park, and then I'll leave around, noon or, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and I could be home by, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, Friday night. So that might be what I do as basically as in tourist mode. Bob, heading out. Got to go to bed. Bob, it's 9 o'clock. It's crazy. If the hotel is more than 15 minutes away from a con, I don't go. And that's basically my decision as well. And people said I was a big baby. Oh yeah, that's a great point. I imagine cosplayers have similar issues. You're going to bring that whole costume? Now, I'm not a cosplayer, but I'm a real GM, so I've got a lot of stuff and I bring a lot of games. So yeah, that's a good point. Love the case study, Jonathan says. How would the garage fire look across systems other than PBTA? Sure. Well, if you're playing a standard D20 game, right, the fire would just do hit point damage. And if you had enough hit points somehow by being high enough level, it would either not affect you at all. And then even if you took a bunch of hit point damage, you would just spend 15 minutes or an hour in a short rest and heal back all your hit points and then be completely fine. And you'd be making a skill check, and then you'd roll it, you fail, you take some fire damage, and then you'd go, I'm going to try it again. You roll it, you fail, and you go, you take some fire damage, and you go, okay, I roll it, and then you go, okay, you succeed. Yeah, the fire would attack immediately, and it fought to the death. So the problem is that the fictional fear of something like a fire doesn't really work in a game with hit points because it's not scary. That's what it really comes down to. For sure. Shadram, any takeaways on Forbidden Lands now that your game is drawing to a close? Sure. We're near the end here, Shadram, so I don't want to go too much. But yeah, my takeaways on Forbidden Lands are, and we kind of talked about these a little bit when we interviewed Tomasz on the channel, is that it's not nearly as dangerous as people think it is. By the way, I think that's true of Dragonbane too. I think that the games are sort of set up to look dangerous, but they're not dangerous. And I also say the same thing about Forbidden Lands. I also think that the survival aspect of the game is highly overstated in terms of the challenge of it. It unfortunately, it feels a little performative. It's very easy for characters to have D12 food, D12 water, and be able to go for weeks in game before they run out of supplies. And it's so easy to refill your water. It's so easy to, get food. So to that end, I think it's a little bit, it feels more scary than it is, which might be exactly what they were going for. So the design, but from my perspective, it just felt a little bit too easy. Pushing is great, but it makes the game, your success rate in the game, absurdly high. I mean, a character with 6 or 7 dice is already 60% to succeed at any roll. But when you assume that they're going to push if they fail, and if it's important, then they probably will push. I mean, people are having success rates of 85, 90, 95%, very high success rates. And of course, in Forbidden Lands, you want to push, because that's how you get willpower. And willpower is what lets you do all your cool things and all your cool spells. I don't like that play pattern. I just don't like it. I think pushing should be a cost. And I know that it can potentially damage you, which is not good. But again, it's so easy to get back your stats and your damages that, there might be some weird chain of event where you push a bunch, you get a bunch of willpower, your stats are really low, and then some random encounter happens, and that stat particularly matters. But outside of that, I think it's kind of it's kind of performative in that respect. The monsters can still be very scary and all this other stuff, and but there's also talents. Quite frankly, if we're talking, there are some talents that are just really powerful, overly powerful. Any of the talents that let you get basically a free dodge or a free parry are just so powerful. And it's really kind of crazy how powerful they are. That being said, I think the lore of the world is really great in some places and really strange in other places. Apparently somebody told me that it's a joke about the Smurfs, but the what are they called? The whiners. The whole lore about the whiners is so weird and dumb. I've literally completely removed them from the game. I've never brought them up. I replace them with something with every time. But by and large, I think that the lore of the game is pretty cool. There's some problems with the world's assumptions, in terms of the blood mist and stuff, but I think it's an interesting premise. And I like the dice pool system. I think I enjoy the tactile nature of building up the dice pool system. It's just that when you include the pushing, it feels too free. In fact, especially in Forbidden Lands, because you want to push. And not only do you want to push, So let me actually, for those of you who don't know how Forbidden Lands works, you figure out what your ability score is, you figure out what your skills are, and for each ability score, you get a d6. So if your strength is 4, you get 4 d6. And then if your weapon skill is 3, you add 3 more d6. So now you're rolling 7 6-sided dice. A 6 is a success. So, and for most, and if you get a single 6, you have succeeded. And now sometimes there's bonuses for getting more 6s. Like if you're fighting somebody, you do extra points of damage. If you're hunting or fishing, you capture extra, units of fish. But for anything else in the game, one single 6 is a success. That's just it, full stop. So you only need to get a single 6 on, let's say, your 7 dice. Now the odds of that are pretty good, but if you fail, you can push, and that means you get to pick up all of your dice that aren't ones, and even some ones you can pick up, and then you get to re-roll them again. Now, this makes your chance of succeeding very, very high, but it also is how your character, when they push, they gain willpower. And for every 1 that you have rolled, when you push a roll, you get to add one of these willpower points. And willpower points, think of them as like focus points, mana points, ability points. They're how you do stuff in the game. So you want these things. And the fact of the matter is, it creates a weird incentive because when a player goes to do something, there's a part of you that wants to fail. You want to fail the check so that you can push the check, succeed, and maybe pick up a couple points of willpower. And that is a really strange play pattern for me to encourage. And it feels very strange and foreign to me. I in some ways, I prefer Dragonbane. There's some things I don't prefer about Dragonbane. It's not a D6 pool system, but if you make an attack or do a skill check in Dragonbane and you fail, your character can push, and it basically means you get to re-roll. Unless you rolled a critical fumble. But instead of giving you something, it costs you something. Okay? It costs you a condition. And I think that is far more compelling of a gameplay pattern than just taking some ability damage. So, yeah, that would be some of my takeaways. That being said, I've had some really fun sessions. Again, I think that the D6 system is really nice. I like building the pools. I like the distinction between the gear dice, the skill dice, the base dice. There's a lot I like about the Year Zero engine, for sure. For sure. Let's see here. How much in bribes for DT got put out tonight? For DT? For Dragontide? I don't think there was any bribes for Dragontide tonight. GM Scott, that is correct. This camera could easily crank all the way up to probably 2000 ISO before you would start noticing any grain. Trey loves the stuff about the videography and audio mixing. Nice. You're setting up your streaming studio. Boy, buddy, we could talk for a long time about that. Did you ever consider starting a session with a pool of willpower and pushing cost willpower? Yes, that was my original idea before we ever played the game. And Bob and Smith were basically kind of rolling their eyes at me, the same way that I don't know who's in chat, but I like to throw Golda Duck under the bus, but the same way that all the Dragonbane GMs, so I'll include Gull, but I'll also include Edril and Goblins, are kind of rolling their eyes at me because I've never run a game of Dragonbane. I've played in one game, Bob's, but I haven't actually run a game, and they've run it, dozens of times now. And so I'll tell them why something in the game doesn't work, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it works fine in the normal Dragonbane game, but maybe it just isn't really working in the way that I would expect it to work in this sort of community-based, almost asynchronous version of the game. But sometimes I'm just no, I just think this particular mechanic in this game is actually kind of wonky and bad and is actually not producing the play pattern experience that you want. Anyways, long story short, they do what Smith and Bob did to me in Forbidden Lands, which is they roll their eyes at me and they go, come on, fucking give me a break. You're really going to change the game before you ever play it? And you know what? I decided to throw my party a bone. I was super busy. I didn't have time to figure out a good solution anyways. So I had made a bunch of proposals and I said, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. We ball. We just went, we just played raw. And sure enough, within about 1.2 sessions, like everyone in my party, except for maybe Bob, was basic. And even Bob, by the way, eventually was like, yeah, okay, I see it. Where basically everybody's like, oh, yeah, Derek was right. Yeah, this is wonky. This is kind of a problem. This is kind of an issue. So one of my solutions was originally going to be that, yes, you start with willpower. Willpower is something that you gain through, recovering. It's something you gain while, in safety. But it also could be something that you gain through exploring your drives or your motivations or your passions. But I thought that pushing should cost willpower, not give it to you. So we didn't do that. But what I did do at our last time we played Forbidden Lands, the group had successfully built a stronghold. And, in the game, if you go to your stronghold, it grants you a willpower. And I said, you know what, the game is going to be wrapping up here in the next, 5-6 sessions. I said, a new rule is if you go back to your stronghold has a value of 3. It will grant you up to 3 willpower, but only if your willpower is less than 3. So if your willpower is 4 or 5 or 6 or 3, it doesn't do anything. But if your willpower is 0 or 1 or 2, it'll raise it after, spending a period of time at the stronghold, not just like stopping in for, the night. But if you spend several days in recovery and in your home base, your willpower will go up to 3. And I said, and as you make your stronghold more impressive or more whatever, then it'll go to 4 or 5. So yes. And so I did that because I was like, I was tired of people not trying to game. They're not trying to game the system. They're not trying to be like cheaty, wonky, fudgy power gaming fucks. They just reasonably want willpower because that's how they use their cool abilities and that's how they cast their spells. And so it's very natural that as soon as the game starts, if their willpower is low, they are going to start looking for opportunities that have some danger so that they can push the willpower. So, again, let's see here. Sorry, I'm missing a bunch of chats here. Sarek says, if you're limited to the tourist experience this time around, we've got a guest room for you on the northwest side of India, about 20 minutes from the con center. Well, Sarek, I don't want to impose or impede. I certainly can afford some stuff, but that's a very generous offer. And I don't know if I can't find anything that's even remotely affordable, buddy. Maybe I'll consider that. I'll let you know on a stream going forward. If you've parked near the venue, can't you lug your stuff back and forth to the car as you would have with your hotel room? Unakatsi, yes. If and only if my car and parking is, reasonably close. I don't want to be downtown in a hotel 6 blocks away either. Secondly, also, to be honest with you, anybody who is at Origins knows I took a nap every day. Okay, and in a bed. I get tired. I'm not 20 anymore. I'm 40 years old, and after running a game or spending the day in the con hall or whatever, I want to go back to my room and take a quick 2-hour nap. I could sleep in my car. I'm not sleeping in my car. I'm not going to sleep in my car. Like I could, but I won't because I won't get any sleep. So Boothby says you did nap more than is reasonable for a grown man. So he's also missing another important point, which is Gen Con and Origins for me is not just an excuse to game from sun up to sundown, which is what this guy did. That would actually be detrimental to what I want to do. I go there because I want to relax. Like, think of it this way. When I go on a cruise, I'm paying a lot of money to be on a ship on the ocean. There's all sorts of shows, there's pools, there's activities, there's, great food. I still take naps because I'm there to relax, or I fall asleep on the pool deck under an umbrella or something like that. I get drunk off of 5 mojitos and then I just pass out. But that's very relaxing to me. That's really what I want out of that experience. So anytime I'm not doing and running around, I want to I want to be napping, basically, or I want to be relaxing. I don't necessarily have to nap. I just like to nap. Let's see here. Borg says the fires jump up your arms. You take 2 points of damage. You only have 1 point of damage, and so you are dead. Oh, that's true. A fort save to resist the smoke. That would be good. You mean you didn't use the D12, D10, D8, D6 homebrew? Beowulf, we did not. I will say that's like the best. That's like the best house rule for Forbidden Lands ever. If you're going to run Forbidden Lands, I would use Beowulf's rule. In Forbidden Lands, a character can carry up to a maximum of a D12 resource die in all 4 resources: food, water, torches, arrows, and any resource that has any amount of dice, whether it's a D6, D8, D10, D12, weighs 1 unit. Beowulf came up with a house rule, which is really, really good, which is that only torches have a limit of D12. Arrows have a limit of D12. D10 is limited for your torches. D8 is limited for your food, and D6 is limited for your water. So I would definitely do that. And by the way, still have them cost 1. So that means D12 arrows is the most arrows you can carry, and it weighs 1. D6 water is the most water you can carry, and it only weighs 1. However, I will addendum this house rule by saying that if I were to use this house rule, I would also implement another house rule, which is in Forbidden Lands, when you use a resource, such as an arrow or a torch, or you eat your food for the day, or you drink your water for the day, you roll that resource die. And on a roll of a 1 or a 2, the die shrinks to the next lowest size. So a D12 becomes a D10. A D10 that rolls a 1 or 2 becomes a D8. A D8 that rolls a 1 or 2 becomes a D6. And a D6 that rolls a 1 or a 2 becomes nothing. You're out. I would get rid of that last part. Now, I wouldn't make it go to a D4 and a D3 or whatever. That's too much. But if somebody rolls a 1 or a 2 on their D6, I would change their resource die to just 1. You just have 1 torch left. You have 1 arrow left. You have 1 day of food left. You have 1 day of water left. I think that is a good way to balance it. And I think it actually increases the drama of the system when, you shoot your arrow and then go, well, that was my last one. I didn't even know. And that can feel very jarring and unrealistic. And even though it could be weird because you're like, how did I not notice that I only had 1 arrow left? So by introducing this rule, you get to this. I think it makes it a lot easier to sell people on this concept, and you won't have this weird, disassociative moment during the gameplay. Would be my guess. Chris says so. Just have rations be light bulk for an entire week, by the way, and 1 silver piece. Yeah, that is also a very easy solution. Let's see here. Trey says, stream idea. You walk us through your system of framing a campaign. Your GM skills series was very well done. I'd like to see a little bit more on what ways you structure your campaigns. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that. A lot of people did enjoy that. And, I know we do a lot of, we have a lot of new people in the Patreon and stuff. And a lot of people really want to see first looks, and they really want me to dive into systems. But there's a lot of people who go, I really like the hard, the hard, sort of soft and hard skills of the game, the night school stuff, the GM skill series. So you're not alone, Trey, in saying that. Sounds like I want a game with a push. Your luck mechanic that is more of a cost, like Burning Wheel. Yeah. I mean, Burning Wheel has some cool stuff to it for sure. I've heard that good things about the alien stress system as well. I've added optional rerolls to partial successes. Have everything you want or risk it all. It's an interesting way. You have the thing is though, Anon, you already have stress in Blaze in the Dark to mitigate consequences, and that's kind of paying for what you want or what you not want. So there's kind of already an element of that in the game. You've never been to Hobbiton? I'm so disappointed in you. I'm so disappointed to you. Ryan says game all day. Only block off is to shop. And the greatest player of all time is noting that if he hadn't played in every single game, how would he have won so many books? All my PCs are lugging around D12 water, and it's kind of boring. And yeah, and it is. But again, I get, they're going for the feel of survival, not really survival, because the truth of the matter, real survival is kind of brutal and possibly kind of boring. But yeah, it's a good system. I'm not saying that. I just think that no system is perfect. That's why I'm always looking for the next great good thing. A lot of people are like, oh, Derek, you shit on Pathfinder. He's like, you should hear me talk about other game systems. There's no game system I've played that I would say is perfect. Now, the difference is I'm oftentimes like, I don't want to be that guy who goes, I'm going to dump on this game. And they're like, well, how would you fix it? And I go, I don't know. The game designers who created this game are smarter than me, and they definitely know game design better than me. I just, I just know that this experience is not delivering, not only for me, but it's also just, I don't think this is a good mechanic, Yes, and you know what, Shadram? Tomas Harenstam said that basically himself in our interview with him, that it's less about, simulating survival and more about emulating survival, which is cool. But the problem is that it is more performative than I would like it to be. That's all. Now, that's true, Anand. There are some games that, are broken beyond repair. There's also this idea of a game being, how flexible a game is, how brittle a game is. Some games you can really twist and squeeze and mesh and mold. But other games, just snap. But let me give you an example though. This is the last thing we're going to do because it's already 9:30. I was going to stop at 9. Let me give you an example. I'm going to pull up my PDF viewer here. Hold one moment, please. This is all I ask. Okay, I'm not saying that you need to do everything the way that I do it, and I'm not trying to tell you whether or not your idea for house rules are bad or not. Okay, I'm just saying this is how I would do it. So this is our this is our Dragonbane rule book. In Dragonbane, your character has attributes. Okay, you have strength, con, agility, intelligence, willpower, charisma. Shocking, right? And then in the game, you have this concept called the damage bonus. Okay, and this applies to your strength and to your agility separately. And depending on how high your strength or agility is, you do extra damage when you use a weapon that uses strength or agility, right? So if you had a 15 strength, then you do plus D4 damage when you use a strength-based weapon, like an axe or a sword or a mace. If you had a 18 agility, you would add D6 points of damage when you shot with your bow. Or even if you attacked in melee, but you were using a weapon like a knife, right? So that's called the damage bonus. Now, the game is made up of skills, much like any other TTRPG. There's a bunch of them. And in Dragonbane, of course, you are trying to roll a D20 and roll equal to or under your skill. And all of your skills start off with a base chance based off of your ability score. So if your strength was, say, an 11, then all of your strength-based skills would start off at a 5, which means you would need to roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 whenever you used a strength-based skill. The game does let you choose a couple of these skills to be trained skills, and then you double this base chance when the game starts. But if I had an 18 agility or an 18 charisma, then all of those associated skills with that attribute would start at 7. So, and why do I bring this up? Because when we were designing Dragontide, which is a series of house rule documents, one of the things that we had to decide was we knew that we wanted players to be able to go adventure and then go back to town. And we were kind of inspired by Blaze in the Dark, which has this concept of going on the score, and then there's this downtime. And we're like, oh, the downtime would be a really cool thing, because a lot of people play these games even when they're not actually playing in a VTT with a GM, they're just on the Discord. So we're like, so we want to give players a number of downtime actions a week that they can use to interact with the game world. And there was a lot of ideas about how many downtime actions that we could use. So my solution was, I was like, well, I feel like to a certain extent, charisma isn't really used that heavily in the game, especially because a lot of the places where charisma would normally be used in your campaign at home when you're playing with just one GM and your same group of players every week, you might use a lot of charisma when you're in town and doing stuff in town and having, interactions around town. But in our game, that's not really going to happen, right? Because it's kind of more of like a organized play kind of thing where you're going to go with a new group and a GM, and then you're going to go do your adventure, and the town stuff kind of happens offline, if you will. So I knew charisma, I wanted it to be kind of given an additional level of importance. So what did I do? I said, well, your charisma is going to determine how many downtime actions you get per week with your character. Simple, easy. We'll just use the rule and the book that's already in the book. So rather than trying to come up with some new crazy house rule mechanic, maybe these, and I'll be honest with you, these numbers here, there we go. These numbers here, they're a little higher than I want them to be. They are. They're higher than I want them to be. I know that not many people are going to be running around with a 16 or 17 charisma, but giving people 7 actions is a little bit more than I want them to have. Ideally, these numbers would be a little lower. But this is me making a design compromise, because I'd rather have a system that intuitively works and links with pre-existing knowledge that you already have from the game. And so it becomes really easy then to just say, use the base, your number of downtime actions is equal to your base chance for charisma. People know what that means because that's already a terminology. It's already a concept that's built into the game. But we took it a step further because I also want intelligence to be important. If your constitution and your strength and your agility are sort of the hallmarks of a character who's, fighting and adventuring, although intelligence does have its role. I wanted your intelligence to also modify how many downtime actions you have. And so rather than just use this, because this would give you bonus actions, even if your intelligence was like a 2, which I don't want it to have. So instead, you use the damage bonus using, instead of strength and agility, you use your intelligence, and that's how many bonus downtime actions you get per turn. So, that is, that's kind of the key core that we're kind of going for there. Now, Beowulf says charisma 13, use the movement ratings where, you have the 13. Now, that's not a horrible idea, except it's kind of weird because it ignores the penalties that you get when your agility is low. Anyways, this is just an example. When I talk about house ruling or homebrewing or whatever, I like, Smith does the same thing, but we really like to, rather than just create something new and just stick it on, or just say, I really like this system, I'm just going to jam it into this system. I don't like to do that. I feel like that's sloppy, and I feel like that's problematic. I like to use these pre-existing concepts. I mean, to be clear, Beowulf, I really like your idea, because it at least is rooted in these kind of pre-structured ideas about the game. That's the same reason, Beowulf, I really liked your resource die home rule idea, because it's still using the same resource die mechanics. When you roll a D8 and you roll a 1 or 2, it becomes a D6. The only thing it's changing is what the maximum is. And that means that you get to use most of the cow. And that's, or most of the buffalo. I don't know why I said cow. Most of the buffalo. And that's really what I want to use, is I want to sort of piggyback. Those of you who know about Mark Rosewater and stuff like this talk about resonance. Well, this is sort of like internal resonance. In Magic the Gathering, they talk about resonance in design because they say, well, we're going to give this creature the ability of flying. And even if you don't know exactly what flying does mechanically in the game, you kind of have a sense of what flying might mean because you understand what flying means in the real world. So that's a great way to design games. But I also think there's this idea, especially when you're homebrewing, of internal resonance, where you look at existing mechanics in the game, and rather than create something brand new and from whole cloth, you leverage those mechanics and those ideas that the players will already know, that they'll already be familiar with, and you sort of leverage them to create new ideas. And I think that's where it's pretty cool. Let's see here. 45 minutes behind. We got about 20 minutes left. That's about accurate. Whiteboard. No, wait. Why use Sumatra, Josh? After endlessly bitching about Adobe on stream many times, this viewer was recommended to me, maybe by Scott, and I've really liked it. It's quick, it's easy, it's fun. We are talking about Dragon Tide, but only just recently, just like right here at the end, just because we're talking about house brewing and home brewing. But yeah, it's just a catch-up stream. We're not really doing too much here. Now, look, Bushcraft is very good. But here's my problem with Bushcraft, Ryan. This is not a problem with Bushcraft per se. Here's my problem with Bushcraft. The problem I have with Bushcraft, and a lot of the int-based skills, Ryan, is you don't need a good Bushcraft. You just need one person in the party to have a good Bushcraft. As long as one person in the party has a good Bushcraft, you're probably completely fine. Whereas a lot of the other skills, like evade or having a good weapon skill or having good constitution or having a good willpower so that you actually have, will or con so that you have a good amount of hit points and willpower points, that's important no matter what your character is. So that's where, for me, while I appreciate that, yes, someone has to be good at Bushcraft. If I suck at Bushcraft and you suck at Bushcraft and, Beowulf sucks at Bushcraft, but if Edril is the god master of Bushcraft, then it's almost like our sacrifice was free. I'm a bit out of the loop. What's Dragon Time? Sounds like Northern Reaches, but in Dragonbane. That is exactly it, Shadram. The only difference is that it is being, it was an idea that I had, that, there was kind of a joke that got passed around, and I joked about season 3 for Northern Reaches being Dragonbane because of all the hype. And then it was kind of like, that's actually kind of a cool idea for that because there's no levels. So one of the biggest problems we have with Northern Reaches is making sure everybody's the same level. And one thing led to another, and now we're doing it. Yes. So you roll and it determines the results. So for example, Ryan, if your character had a 12 charisma, you would get 5 town actions, downtime actions, whatever you want to call them. You would get 5 actions per week. Let's say on Monday at the start of the week, you would get 5 actions. Then let's say your character's intelligence was a 15. Well, then you would also roll a D4, like in the Discord on the bot, and you would add that number of actions for that week. So your actions per week would be 5 plus D4. So you would have somewhere between 6 to 9 actions per week. So there's always a little bit of randomness because you're never quite sure. But yeah. Gonza, that is another thing. I am using charisma for something else, considering that few skills have it as the base, and that was exactly another part of my reasoning. There's a whole topic in our Dragon Tide discussion forum where I say charisma and to a lesser extent intelligence I feel like are somewhat underutilized. Yeah, but I don't even think that makes necessarily sense, Beowulf, because think about how many guides lead clueless people through the wilderness all the time, like on Boy Scouts or through, Grand Canyon. That's pretty much par for the course. I don't think that. I feel like that's just unnecessarily punishing. I use Sumatra for single PDFs and PDF Exchange Editor when opening multiple PDFs at the same time. Oh, it can search all of your open PDFs. That's pretty sweet. Just started, so way behind, but I would definitely spend my tokens on a nice Fuck It We Ball sticker. All right, Wojo, what about a Fuck It We Ball t-shirt? Because that did get talked about. I mean, granted, if we made the icon, we could easily put it on a sticker. But as well as a shirt. But I do kind of want to do shirts. Monday is the second day of the week, you heathen. Yeah, I mean, I think Northern Reaches, I think the first day of the week was Sunday, actually. Yeah, like the Atla episodes. Gonna have to duck out soon for my new Community Pulp Cthulhu game that starts tomorrow. There you go, buddy. Go prep. I'm gonna duck out here myself here. Strength only has crafting outside of encumbrance, I think, and attacking. So here's the deal with strength, though, Ryan. Number one, you're right. It only has crafting as a thing, but it does have a lot of skills. And weapon skills are important. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm a mage, I can't attack. If you have a high strength, you're just as good with a weapon as anybody else is. Hell, you could be a high strength mage who actually gets a damage bonus, and you could be better at attacking and do more damage than the fighter or the knight. So everybody can use strength. But the other thing that you really clicked on here is strength determines your initial starting skills. Just like intelligence determines your initial bushcraft, determines your initial spot hidden. But after that point, it does nothing. Whereas strength will always affect your damage bonus, and it will affect your ability to carry stuff. And being able to carry stuff is important. Now, I understand that they, through the game, fucked themselves over in a stupid fashion by making it super easy for people to have access to things like donkeys and carts, which make encumbrance almost a joke, especially through the merchant. That is one thing that I am nuking from Orbit for my game, for Dragotide. And so, like, having the ability to carry stuff is actually going to be a challenge. But yeah, anyways, strength, my point is, strength does more than just set your initial skills. Intelligence, aside from setting your initial skills, Ryan, does nothing in the game. If you do shirts, can we get a non-black option? We just did orange shirts for our exclusive Origin shirt. Thank you, buddy. Level 112. Cheers. Hopefully someday we actually get to play EverQuest again. Yeah, buddy. I'm pretty happy it was fairly minimal damage as well. I mean, again, a ton of work that needs to be done. They told me it could take three to 5 months for them to completely restore everything. It's just such a crazy amount of time for me to imagine. So I don't know. Do you have a video explaining the idea of Northern Reaches? I'm fairly new here. I think we do. Yeah, I think if you probably, let me see. If you got, well, I'll probably get something different. Let me open up an incognito tab and type Northern Reaches Knights of Last Call. Yeah, we've got at least one video about Northport that's publicly available. But yeah, I mean, long story short, Trey, it's just Northern Reaches is just a community Pathfinder 2 game. So it's just a bunch of people playing Pathfinder 2 together, but with a lot of additional rules that made the game a little bit more complicated. Some people really like those rules. Some people didn't like those rules. And we're in the process. We've done 2 seasons because at the end of every season, the game ends, and next time you have to make a new character. And we're in the process of starting season 3. Normally, we would have started it, honestly, in May. May didn't happen. It became June. And June didn't happen. It became July. The person who kind of handles all of that is mostly Bob and Aaron, Mr. Smith. And Smith's sort of our primary architect. And quite frankly, they've just had a lot of stuff going on. Been very busy at work. The company that Smith and I work for got bought by another company, so there's this whole corporate merger. I'm just a lowly employee. Smith is a executive vice president or something, so he's been super swamped with work. Let's see here. But donkeys and carts don't do dungeons very well, and being outside in the wilderness is extremely dangerous as well. Yes, there's some, there's some truth to that. But to be clear, you're kind of making that up. I'm not saying that that's not reasonable. I'm just saying, that's not in the rules, In fact, donkeys were frequently, and mules were frequently used inside of underground areas specifically because they did fine. They make you feel like you're absorbing all the heat. Well, buddy, I respect it. If we do a shirt, please make sure there is a black option. Fuck it, we ball the ball. Yes. Yeah, I have to check on the status of the KOLC shirts. They weren't in the garage, but they were on the first floor of the house. So hopefully, now some of them were in sealed plastic bags, so those ones are certainly okay. But I don't know if any of them, unfortunately, took an L. All right. Oh, yeah, there's a million different ways to play on Night's Last Call Discord. We've got play by post. We've got 20 and 30 different community games. We've got mega community games. There's a ton of stuff going on. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Thank you again for hanging out with me. Thank you again for being so awesome and just an amazingly supportive community. Being able to talk with you all, hang out with you all is very therapeutic to me. The money, the donations that you all have made, just incredibly. I don't want to say, I don't want to make it sound like I'm, like blowing smoke up your ass and say it's life changing. But it's going to make a significant impact to my life, to be able to handle all these unexpected financial challenges that have been thrust upon me. So thank you again to Sam, to Damien, to Trevor, to Casey, Doc, Alternate Game Master, Shadram, and Mr. Chris Unikatsi for their generous donations tonight. Thank you to everybody who has joined the Patreon, joined everything else, the YouTube channel, join the adventure. All of your donations are extremely important, and never more so than now. Season 2 reaches when? The data is there. Beowulf put together the information. We just wanted to do it as a kickoff to Season 3 because it felt kind of shitty to do Season 2 Reaches and get people all excited again about Northern Reaches and then be like, yeah, and it's still coming. So, look, I've apologized, and I'm the first to admit that we kind of dropped the ball a little bit, but it can't be helped because Bob and I can't do what Smith does, and we wouldn't even probably want to anyways if we could, because it's kind of Smith's baby, and this is nobody's full-time job. It's not my full-time job. It's not Smith's full-time job. So I'm not gonna I don't know, what am I gonna say? You gotta make this and get it done. No, it's like dude has a family. Dude has a company that he was a part owner of that got bought. It's just he had a lot of stuff going on. So he's working on it when he can, and we're gonna get it when we get it. So, all right. Check state programs to support disaster victims too. I don't know if I'm a disaster victim. I mean, my garage caught on fire. My house kind of got smoked out. So, all right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Probably not this weekend, but we'll be back next week, and we'll kind of slowly, hopefully, get back into a rhythm routine. I'm hoping we get Bob and Smith back on here. We've got we're going to be watching Dungeon Meshi, the dungeon and eating or game or whatever. We're probably going to be doing that through the Patreon, and then we'll go from there. All right. Well, yeah, when it mutes like that, it's probably just my it's probably clipping and it's shutting it off or something like that. I don't know. New microphone, kind of getting used to it. All right, everybody. Yeah, so we've got Cleric, Wizard, we've got Probably Eberron, but we'll let the patrons vote on what system setting we're going to look at next. Dungeon Meshi, Cleric, Wizard, that Eldamon theme song, Call of Cthulhu game later this year. Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably another one that I forgot. Derek talks about Warhammer. I could do that also. Definitely Eberron. Ryutama is the best RPG ever. It certainly is. I can think of none better. Look, Ryutama gave us Fabula Ultima. Props to Ryutama. All right, everybody. I will see you on the Discord if you want to hang out with us, if you want to be part of this community, if you want to chat with me. I'm been busy, but I'm still trying to make time for my game, for my love of my hobby, and for this community. But there are all sorts of really cool, crazy people here that you can go hang out with. So hopefully you can check us out there, or when we see you next time on Knights of Last Call. Peace.